welcome to Legacies, everyone. We're at the JointCraft Sensory Room for our holiday special. We hope you are happy that we're here. Holy shit, what a setup today was. We're joined by Andrew Ross and John Prentice. But first, a disclaimer to let you know that this episode is for educational purposes only. Health Canada, we're only here to educate. That's all we're fucking doing, okay? Also, for mature audiences, John.
Very mature, 19 plus.
Could I please see your ID? Andrew?
I have
ID,
a photo
please.
of it on my phone.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, it wouldn't be possible without all our sponsors. Mendo, we thank you very much. Aveo. Wes, who am I missing?
Weedgets.
Sitting right here in front of me. We're going to get into some of that as well.
Stok'd retail, yeah.
Stok'd. Oh, my God. Wait till you see. Have you guys seen the jersey? Lisa sent over this beautiful jersey. We're going to get it out in a little bit. Who else do we've got?
And then, of course...
Oh, and Sheesh. How could we forget Sheesh? Listen, guys, it wouldn't be possible without our sponsors. We've got a ton of equipment, as you can probably see here. We've been spending the last 5 hours setting up, I think. Felt like 7. Amy fed us. She's off in the background, but we're happy to be here. Gents, thanks for inviting us.
Oh, no problem, Tom. Welcome.
Very welcome.
Well, it's funny because, so for those that don't know, John and I go way back. I've mentioned this a few times on the podcast, but back into the Ample days. And I said, we got to make this happen at some point. And then you go and build a fucking sensory room. So it only made sense.
We're trying to make weed fun again here.
Make weed fun again. Yeah. So anyways, let's, we're going to figure out the history behind how JointCraft came to be, obviously. I'll probably hit my mic about 1 million times, not used to this setup. And we also want to understand, that we could almost have an Ample reunion.
We could.
Andrew, it's okay, man.
Is Ben here today?
I was about to leave. I'm like,
No Ben today?
No Ben today.
No Ben today.
Damn.
But listen, why don't we first walk through, because I know the JointCraft journey has been long.
It's been an adventure.
Painful, maybe a little bit. But some learning lessons as well. Why don't we go through, how did JointCraft come to be before? Just for everyone tuning in and watching, we're at the old CanTrust / Fina? Did they change their name to Fina?
They did. Yeah, it was Fina.
Yeah. So how did this come to be? I mean, it's been a journey.
Oh, man, what a story. It started with an idea, which was that the joints that were out in market were just too damn big. Every time I went to smoke a joint, it was a 1-gram baseball bat, and that's not really what I wanted to do with my day. Like, I have other things I need to accomplish.
You smoke joints, John. Come on, they're big blunts.
Yeah, but I'm pretty like, they're pretty sedative when they're that size, and if you've got stuff to do, like small little hits through the day is kind of my jam. And a friend and I were talking, and we decided that we were going to try to launch a cannabis brand around creating a smaller, thinner, more elegant joint. And Pinnrz was born. It's a bit of a story, actually. Andrew's got an interesting part to play because when we started, we looked at all the different rolling paper cone options that were out there, and there wasn't really anything that fit the size that we wanted to create. So we got a 3D printer and we started printing off mandrels, and we started rolling paper around mandrels and shoving cardboard in there and trying to figure out what a cone could look like for this little tiny joint we wanted to make. And when we finally got that done, we sent it off to a few suppliers overseas in Indonesia and India, and a few weeks later, we got samples back. And the first person we went to see was our good friend Andrew Ross.
The first samples I saw were handmade, hand-rolled.
That's correct.
Yeah. Nice. We can't do this at scale, guys.
I pulled that out of the box the first time, and I could tell it was not made by a machine, and I was like, oh, boy.
Yeah. So,
hey, we have to start somewhere. Yeah. We had to start somewhere. So we went over to see Andrew. Andrew was working at a co-processing facility, and he promptly told us that was not going to happen. There was really no way to make it work on the equipment or methods.
The existing equipment.
That's right. Exactly. So, at the place he was working, they use the standard stuff, knock boxes and things like that. And there's no way you can get weed to fall in a joint that's that thin by shaking it in. So we went down this whole pathway of like, how do we get the weed in the cone? I know it's a deceptively simple thing.
I still struggle with how do I get the weed in the cone? Tweezers in one little bit at a time.
That's right. It's there's a lot of ways to accomplish that. Not all of them are good ways.
Yeah. No.
And so what we ultimately found was a patent around some tamping technology. And we brought in this technology, and we leased some space in a facility in Bowmanville, a little facility called Mediwana. We set up our room. We were in about maybe 1,500 square feet.
I remember that.
I think you came by for a visit.
Yeah.
And we had that one little milling room. And then we had the other room, which was the production room.
Yeah.
And we had the Canatrol where we could store stuff. Like, it was very, very small. But that's where we started. So we hired 17, 18, 19-ish people to
What
work.
do we call them at the time?
Pingineers.
Engineers.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we...
Andrew, what was Andrew's thoughts on that? I mean, you were involved.
Well, it was. I mean, I'll let John tell the rest of the story. But what was cool was like, I mean, I've known John for a couple of years, and when he came with me with the idea, I loved it. We just couldn't help. And then they kind of went into the darkness a little bit. And then when I saw Pinnrz launching, and then I realized like, oh well, they're actually starting to do work for other people.
Yeah.
So now, as a contract manufacturer, I've watched my friends kind of fall backwards into being a contract manufacturer. Right, so I mean, they used to call me and bounce a lot of things off me, and I'd give them some info. But it was pretty cool to see that transition where they were just trying to solve for a problem, and they, you know, we'll get into it. But we certainly make the best pre-rolls in the market, and it was kind of by happenstance. So it was pretty cool to see that happen.
Very cool. Very cool.
We started as this idea that we could find local people and bring them into this incredible culture and create this sense of craftsmanship, making beautiful little pre-rolls and pushing them to market. And that's exactly what we did at Mediwana. It was November of 2021 when we shipped our first load-in of Pinnrz, and we sold quite a few units throughout the launch, and it was pretty successful. That's about the time you would see Royce driving around and all of those fun things kind of going on in the market.
We certainly want to understand Royce as well, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll go.
I wanted to pull up-
That's a deep dive.
Couple iterations. Wes, don't kill me with the post audio. I know I'm going to be fucking with stuff. That's what I do. I fuck with stuff.
I was going to say I wanted to see the Rolls Royce in the sensory lounge. That would have been sick having it in here for the episode, but
To cut a hole
Could've
in the
fit by
wall
the
to
door.
get it in. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe get rid of those windows, drive
Yeah.
it in. Where was I? So we launched in November of 2021. Launch was good. Mediwana wasn't so good. They kind of fell into an insolvency issue.
Are they still in business
They
at
are
all?
not.
No, not at all. Right?
So
Yeah.
they went through an insolvency and ultimately ceased operations and have become Blue Harbor Organics or something like that in Bowmanville, which is new operators, maybe same building owners, but new operators. We had to make a sudden move. So we ended up moving to Final Bell, right up the street, which is hilarious now.
Dude, you're a glutton for fucking punishment, aren't you?
It wasn't known at the time.
Yeah, we didn't know that at the time.
Who would have known? Who would have known? Yeah.
Well, and the timing was serendipitous, I think, for everyone because we had Pinnrz going on, and we didn't want to stop making our products, so we got to do this whole like OCS switchover of SKUs and all of that fun stuff, which pulled us out of market for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we kind of loaded back in. But at the same time, Final Bell was starting to get into the Beurre Blanc water hash infused
Right.
joints. There was some other Sovereign, I think, had a similar SKU, and there was a few other things. But when we arrived, they had no capability to manufacture pre-rolls.
Right.
So they had these SKUs launching, but no way to make them. And here we were. And I should mention they had just taken over the second half of their building. So they had all of this empty space that they were sitting on. And we showed up with no space, but all the technology to make pre-rolls and a helpful attitude.
Yeah.
So initially it worked out really well. We popped in there. We transferred our listings over. We started making stuff for Final Bell. And that was our first third-party co-processing client. We also started to launch Pinnrz into some medical sales channels. That was hugely successful for us.
I remember that, yeah.
And it frankly saved the business. And then, we started to grow, and Final Bell was also very successful, and they were growing as well. All the credit to Greg Boone and Jennifer Macaron for putting up with us along the way, and all the hard work invested in making sure.
What the fuck is he doing now?
Pretty much, I've got a lot more understanding now about kind of the level of disruption that trying to bring a brand into a licensed facility can cause. So a lot of gratitude for them taking the chance on us. And, eventually we just kind of outgrew each other. Like they needed the space we were in. We needed more space. There were skids down hallways, boxes stacked to ceilings. And I think our whole operating space had gone from 1,600 square feet at Mediwana to maybe 2,000 square feet at Final Bell.
Wow.
So it was quite small. And I guess at some point it kind of came to a head, which would have been like February of 2023. And we knew at that point, like, we had to make a decision and kind of figure out that our tenure at Final Bell was going to come to an end, and where was Pinnrz, what was going to happen to Pinnrz and everything that we were doing. And so there were kind of three options on the table at that time. And I think this is kind of an important part because it sort of explains my lunacy in starting a licensed producer at this moment in time. One, we had an opportunity to kind of go in and try to purchase the old marijuana facility. But that particular deal would have involved purchasing the land and the building. And it was a small building. It didn't have like shipping docks or any of the stuff that we would need to operate our business. The other one that was in insolvency at the same time was the James E. Wagner facility.
Oh, right.
Way out in Kitchener. And so we kind of looked at that, but again, the economics of it didn't really make sense. And in both cases, it was this huge upfront cash investment to secure either one of those opportunities. And then this thing sort of presented itself. I got a call that, the CanTrust FINA folks were potentially on their last ropes and were looking to start divesting.
Wasn't the first time.
The second time. And we're looking to divest some of the things that some of their liabilities to get ready for an insolvency process. So we managed to show up basically at like the 11th hour. And the second I came in here, I parked myself in the boardroom and I didn't leave until the papers were signed. And I mean weeks. Just so I knew if anyone else came in and looked if anyone else was sniffing around the opportunity. Jeez. Because what was great about this opportunity, although it's a monster facility, it's 60,000 feet, it cost CanTrust like $100 million to build it. It's beautiful.
I remember in the Ample days showing up here going, holy shit.
I've
never seen a facility. I don't want to say overbuilt because there was obviously a purpose, but at the time it was like, what are they doing?
Well, they spent the money to get the money.
Right.
And in those days, the more money you spent and the more outrageous you made it seem, the easier it was to take money from people when you take them on a tour.
Right.
So
and we saw a lot of facilities set up for investor tours back in the day. With like catwalks and
Aurora Sky. That was probably the big one for me. The vault. Were you ever at Aurora?
Not Aurora Sky. No.
Their vault was the size of a basketball court.
Oh wow!
And this was pre Health Canada going,
you don't need
those millions spent on vaults. You don't really need one.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
that was a good change.
But
what a time!
When you said you were like staying here waiting to see if anywhere else was like snooping around, and was there anyone else interested, or were you the only ones that you knew of?
We were the only ones, and I think I think the situation had kind of scared a few people away because of the size of the facility. I don't think that they fully understood what the overhead cost of carrying it would be, and rent in this area has gone up tremendously in industrial. So when CanTrust had taken over this building, it was like 10 years ago. So the lease was also on the verge of renewal. So it was a very complex situation. We had to come in and negotiate with the landlord and do all of these fun things. But in a way, we managed to find a happy situation because it relieved FINA of the liability of the lease going into a CCAA process. It prevented the landlord from having to do a full liquidation, renovation, demolition job to bring this back to...
Could you imagine the teardown?
It would be a project.
Holy
there's they've built a whole steel I-beam superstructure in there. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that would not be easy to remove.
The electrical in this building alone is fucking outrageous.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So everybody got off the hook, so to speak, by us coming. It took a little while to get everybody to see it that way, but eventually we did, and we managed to strike ourselves a deal that worked for us. And then we came in and waited 7 months for the license to get transferred.
Okay, well here we are. We're spending lots of money, and Health Canada, any day now.
Well, so this is something I'd like to talk about a little bit because it really ticked me off. We came into this building. Here's a bankrupt licensed producer, and Health Canada was more concerned about trying to collect regulatory fees that were unpaid from this bankrupt producer, and were threatening our application to get this place licensed because, and they didn't seem to understand, they're not going to get paid.
Right.
Like the judge is it's a CCAA, but 7 months is what it took
ridiculous.
to just basically change the name on the license from FINA to JointCraft. We had some security clearances and things to do, but they didn't take very long. And then another month or so for the CRA to issue us a letter so that we could start operations. So, having it was like March or April, I think it was April 4th, we signed the definitive paperwork on the building. And in March, we'd signed a letter of intent. And it wasn't until like mid-November that we finally made our first joints as JointCraft in this facility. And what's come to my attention afterwards is FINA had two facilities. They had this facility and they had the greenhouse, the fake walls.
The fake wall one.
The fake walls one.
Peter Aceto goes down fake walls.
That's right. So interesting enough, the fake walls greenhouse was delicensed, totally licenses removed. A First Nations group showed up and had it relicensed in less than 5 months from zero.
5 months.
So it took us over 7 to change the name on a license, but a fresh group less than 5 to get a fresh license on a
Meanwhile, you've
400.
been operating for, you weren't you were licensed via, but still you were operating. There was proof there. You had product in market. There was a brand that was built.
That's it. And like the reality is like, haha, oh well, but it's like $500,000 a month sitting here. We're like, whoa, oh well, that's
We saw that Rolls Royce you got. You got lots of money, John.
not anymore.
That's all gone.
That's all gone now.
Yeah,
That was my money. That was our co-founders' money, and there's 5 families that started this business. That's our money in there, to the tune of $500,000 a month, just to have a bureaucrat shuffle paper from one side of a desk to another side of the desk. Like, I could build this facility in less time. It would take them to move a piece of paper from one side of the office to the other. And, frankly, it's ridiculous. But this is the regulated industry in which we work.
Yeah.
And, we're very fortunate to have got a license, and it's really meaningful. And
well, it helps that your wife is also involved, because I could just imagine talking off. Could you imagine talking off, right? You do this, but it's like, Christmas is going to be tight this year. It's, we got a lot of money out right now. And don't worry, you don't understand the operations of it. But in your case, you ain't hiding anything.
No,
She's
I want
right here beside you.
No, I want to be transparent, because I think, it's important people understand that there's huge barriers to entry to even get in this business. And I've been here since 2012. Like, I've been here since the first day. So, it's not easy, and it is structurally set up in such a way to make it really difficult. And I think, some pieces of that need to change, but we're not going to inflict change without, educating the public about what's actually going on.
Well, and I think that's the hardest part, right, John, is, as a consumer, it's one thing. You pick up product, and how often, myself, I understand craft beer, I understand the process. But for the vast majority of individuals that are consuming product, they go into a dispensary, they purchase a product, and that's it. They don't think twice about anything else. They don't realize the amount of time, effort, the work that goes into it, and the money that's on the line. But behind the scenes, you've got a challenge where that wizard, not our West wizard, he's our wizard, but you've got someone behind the scenes that's going, well, how can I fuck with them today? Right? That's what it feels
Sometimes
like.
it does feel that way.
Yeah,
sometimes, yeah.
It does feel that way. And, it's a bit of a slap in the face when you pay a regulatory fee for that license that's 2.8% of your cannabis revenues. So, your Health Canada is here to ensure compliance, right? They're here to enforce the act and make sure that everybody's being compliant. But, like, the service standard, is not there. Like, I would think you are economically advantaged by having someone like me go out, get a license, open a facility of this scale, pay you regulatory fees, collect excise taxes. Like, let's go. Yeah. Like, let's get it done.
Yeah.
But it's also the jobs too, right? A lot of the, I was fortunate enough to be hired here in June. So we had a great summer. Because there wasn't a whole lot to do. So we had a great time, but the rubber hit the road in November. But it just goes to show, like, they hired me in June thinking, like, hey, should be any time.
Yeah.
Right. And they were told it shouldn't be a long process. So.
No,
we thought, wait, right? Like next Friday.
Yeah, we thought July. Right? And you remember the classic next Friday phone
next
calls.
Friday.
I was there.
Oh, yeah.
I was there. I was doing it. I was doing it
Jeez.
myself. Having seen it 1,000 times, I was doing it myself. I was so deluded into thinking that our license was imminent. It's going to land any minute. All through July and August, I'm like, next Friday. It'll be here next Friday.
Next Friday. Next Friday. Well, and in the ample days, we used to celebrate, right? Because we would have pre-licensing with our customers, and we get their application, we get all the readiness, we're doing this, and now it's in the mail. It's in the mail. And every Friday we would monitor, and out comes, so-and-so's, all these congratulation emails going out on the Fridays. And it was a big deal. Like, we celebrated right along with the customers.
We did that at CCI, Cannabis Compliance.
Yeah.
We were helping people get licensed, so it was a big day for us when we'd see our clients actually go through. I mean, we did a lot of that work. Right?
Yeah,
so it was nice
exactly,
to see it go
exactly.
through.
Yeah, it's the industry has matured to this point of stagnation, I feel, and now it's about to take off again, right? Because we felt the trials and the tribulations. You know, there's a lot of speculation on which companies are going to make it, which ones aren't. But I think the ones that have managed to really feel that pressure, like yourself, and you grew through that time, you have the opportunity to really shine now, right? And it's been a challenge. I mean, you've seen it, CCI. I mean, you guys were as close to it as you can get. And there was a quote that I actually pulled. It was just recently. It was David Brown, and David Brown saying, listen, this is just a matter of the business that didn't make sense. Those ones that no longer exist, they just didn't make sense. They were spending a ton of money, shareholder money, right? That was coming in. They were, overbuilding facilities in some cases. But I mean, you guys have grown into this space. Did you originally project, we're going to take over this, we're going to do this? Like, because obviously, input from outward factors, that will change your direction somewhat. But when you first came in, were you like, oh yeah, this is 100%. We're going to do this here. We're going to do this here. And I won't share the secrets, the behind the scenes secrets, but I love the rotation, right? You have the opportunity. You can clean the rooms down. You can move it. Like there's just so much here. But did you see that as this is what I want to do in the next couple of years?
I think first walking in here, I was, if I had to describe what I was feeling, it was just purely overwhelmed. It is a really big facility.
Easy to get lost in.
It was very empty.
Yeah.
There was lots of equipment sitting around and things, but there were no people.
Lots of tape as well, I heard.
Yeah.
About a metric ton of CannTrust branded tape we still use to this day because it's funny.
It is fun. We've got some CannTrust dead stock merch too. Yeah. Maybe we'll sell that online someday. But it was so surreal to just walk through this. I call it the Cathedral of Weed because it very much feels that way with its like cavernous ceilings and sliding glass doors and all this crazy stuff that's going on back there. But to walk through there by yourself, like all alone, and just see the motion lights click on as you're slowly drifting around the hallways, it's a strange feeling. So it was a big feeling of being overwhelmed initially. And then, it started to turn into optimism. While we were having a great summer last year, we were also starting to have a lot of preliminary conversations with groups that were looking for pre-roll manufacturing. We knew coming in here that the only way we were going to be able to make this work was not going to just be existing as Pinnrz. We had to grow the manufacturing business and scale the business to support the overhead. So we set our sights to that. We started those preliminary conversations, and that's turned into a really great ramp throughout 2024. Yeah. So, it's been today, a good day here is roughly 200,000 pre-rolls rolling off the end of the line, which is it's a lot.
Can you smoke them that quick?
No. I really
but we try.
We
do try.
It's product testing, which brings us to we need a sensory room.
That's right. Well, but if you think about it for a second, it's not just joints. It's every one of those joints represents a moment. Mm-hmm. Someone's going to open a package somewhere. They're going to take that joint out. We take such pride in the quality of the product that we make here, and we can dig into that a little bit as well. But you get this perfect little joint and you light it up, and who knows where you are or what you're doing, but it's one of those really cool things that we get to make that for people and share that with people all over Canada every day. That's a pretty exciting thing.
I think what's been I got a lot of flack in the early days when you started Pinnrz because I would say Pinnrz is the best joint I've smoked, and I wasn't talking about. I mean, the quality of the product inside is great, it's phenomenal, but it was the pack, how well it burnt. And everyone's like, oh yeah, but you and John go back to the early days of Ample. And I'm like, I would not blow smoke up your ass. It is not about that. I've tried a ton. By the way, how many years now? 34 5 years of rolling joints, and I still can't roll a fucking joint worth my
I have a trick for you.
So does Wes. It's a little machine that does this stuff. But I would say, listen, you've got to try these. I call them dog walkers, right? They're dog walkers. I don't know where I picked up the term, but I'm like, they're ideal. And if he can do this with this, imagine on a larger one or a blunt, right? And it was, no. You've got this relationship with John. It goes back. Of course you're gonna, pump his tires. I'm like, I wouldn't.
No, if anything, I think you'd be more blunt with John than you would with anyone else.
Yeah.
If something was like
100%.
that.
And I would hope you would be, because honestly, that's everything to us. Like
Right.
we tamp that weed into those joints. It's not
Don't
shaken
share the
in
trade
there.
secrets.
No, that's not a secret. That's not a secret.
There's way more to it than that.
If it was that simple. Yeah.
How long did you say the training takes for that guy on that machine?
Oh, quite a while. Yeah, quite a while. It's weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of practice to get it right. If I were to take someone off the street and put them onto our joint making press, as we call it, the tamping machine, it would be a disaster.
Yeah, it would
you
be
would
a
have
disaster.
cones all over the place. They'd be ripped and torn. The first time I tried it personally, when we first got the equipment, I destroyed 700 plus cones.
Jeez.
Like the first 5 seconds.
That's our guy.
Yeah.
Amy's in the corner over there going, that's what he did.
I've learned a lot since then.
We don't let him back. We don't let him down there anymore.
No. But it's a definite technique. We've done extensive validation of our process, and there's a whole bunch of things happening around that makes this kind of a combination of unique manufacturing when it comes to pre-rolls. Very different than how anyone else does it. But that tamping ensures equal compression and consistency from the bottom of the joint right at the crutch all the way to the twister fold at the top.
Yeah.
And it's just so key. If that is uneven, how are you going to get an even burn?
Yeah, you're not.
Well, that's something I know all too well, because where I worked before, the 3 years I was there, I was a part of maybe 60, 65 million pre-rolls made, but all with that standard tech, right? That everyone's very familiar with, a lot of vibration technology and some of the automated stuff. And, I would be the one answering to the customer complaints.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it was something we had a lot.
You could tell, because I'd get to the end of a joint and it was like, I can't get a haul off of it, or this is super fucking potent all of a sudden, because all your keef and everything's ending up at the base, right?
Yeah, there's a lot more to making a really good burning pre-roll than people think. I mean, there are a lot of people that understand it's not that easy, which is why we have a business, truthfully, right? I mean, a lot of people try to do it for themselves and realize, like, the concept itself is simple, but to have something that doesn't clog or doesn't canoe, like it's very difficult with standard technology. It's
crazy. Well, listen, Andrew, we want to learn about the Ministry of Sativa brand and how you came into the JointCraft fold as well. But right after these messages, I need to fix my fucking mic and get a coffee.
That's a good idea. I could use a coffee too.
This special episode of Legacies is proudly presented by Mendo. Mendo select premium products that meet the highest standards in quality, and my personal fave, Purple Mountain Majesty. We're also supported by Weedgets, innovative accessories designed to make your smoking experience smoother, cleaner, and more enjoyable. Special thanks to Aveo, dedicated to delivering quality products that focus on consistency and innovation. And of course, Stok'd, your go-to retailer for top-notch service and carefully curated products with 3 locations in Scarborough and 1 in Niagara Falls. Stewart Farms, bringing relaxation to anyone's routine, especially mine, with their thoughtfully crafted products. Finally, Sheesh, offering premium, strain-specific curated sodas and soon-to-launch gummies. Friends don't let friends drink mids. A huge thank you to all our sponsors for helping us bring Legacies to life. All right, welcome back, everyone. Got the mic set up. I think I'm all done with all the problems now, maybe.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Jury's still out, Tom.
He shakes his head every time I got to touch something. So let me just first take a quick second. Obviously, we're very close. Lisa and Stok'd, a sponsor of this episode, want to take a second and just show, like,
wow,
what the fuck? Seriously,
what
the fuck? Now let's turn it around. Because what? 420.
Love it.
Name 420, right?
And classy too. They didn't just put 420.
God.
No, yeah,
very classy.
Yeah.
So Stok'd, John, you know this. I mean, you're in Scarborough, right?
They're right. They're my resident dispensary at the top of my street. I'm a Stok'd frequent flyer.
They've got the 3 locations in Scarborough. They've got a beautiful location in Niagara. And I actually went on their website last night because Mendo has Roadkill Skunk. And I'm like, oh, Amy's going to be swinging by Stok'd. If there's any Roadkill Skunk, let's get some. They didn't have any. Lisa, I love you. Get some Roadkill Skunk in though too. But thank you so much for these beautiful jerseys. There's obviously some more stuff. We'll get through some of the sponsors and understand that. And I just asked, can I drink a sheesh in the sensory room? The answer is no. But we have some sheesh mugs here, and you won't know what I'm drinking. So if I just happen to be drinking out of one, no, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to get these guys in any trouble. Let's go back over to Andrew for a second. Andrew, my friend, we've gotten to know each other quite well over the last little bit. Tell me about Ministry of Sativa, but first, can we get
Oh yeah, I did say at one point. Thank you, Tom, because I didn't know how I was going to get my shoes in frame. But now I figured it out. And cleverly says Ministry of Sativa across the back.
I'm just going to say I'm really glad we have the high ventilation fan right above us, just in case.
Well, hold on. Give me one of these for a second. So Tom's anal, right? They're clean soles.
Those are clean.
They're clean soles. As we continue to grow, my OCD picks up even more, and I'd be like, you guys need to wipe the bottoms of your shoes, but we can't even see them.
I'm a sneaker guy, so it's a little obsessive. Yeah, yours look clean.
They're not Ministry of Sativa, but...
Well, that's okay. We can fix that.
John always used to be right into the sneaker
I
game.
got the lime green ones today.
I'm rocking the Walmarts.
Yeah. Depends how fast you got to go through them. I mean, that's a good way to do it. But Andrew, so tell us about Ministry of Sativa and your work with CCI, because I think you've somehow managed to stay somewhat behind the scenes.
Yeah, for a long time.
And I'm like, because I remember when Ministry, when we started High Flyer, we obviously do our scrubbing of brands, what's what, who's doing what. And I'm like, look at the fucking beautiful branding on this. Who's behind it? Lo and behold, it's Andrew Ross.
Not just me, but
not just
yes,
you, but
yeah.
So how did that come about? But maybe back up and tell us a little bit about your work with CCI.
Yeah, well, like John, I was lucky enough to start in the legal cannabis industry quite early on. So from New Brunswick, I was working with high-tech security systems, camera systems, card access systems, things that are very common in cannabis facilities. But at that time, there were MMAR licenses. It wasn't necessarily a big business at the time. And I was fortunate enough to work with a group that we had done a federal and a provincial prison. And I worked underneath the owner. I learned a shitload going through that whole process, a bunch of big hospital expansions. So one night out drinking in Moncton, New Brunswick, St. James Gate, I met the former CEO of Organigram. Just whatever, shooting the shit, and he found out what I did. And at that time, if you were in a service industry with cannabis, if you weren't at the right place at the right time, the project was built before you found out.
Right, yeah.
So very lucky to meet that guy. I signed an NDA, went to an empty facility. I still had no idea what this project was. And I get goosebumps because I've been smoking weed, for quite a long time. And to now all of a sudden realize in a professional capacity, I get to work in weed, right? So I helped Organigram, one of the many teams that helped Organigram get licensed. They've since taken over a whole city block, but that experience moved me to Toronto.
Yeah.
So from there, I ended up doing some security work, which had varying levels of success. All the groups that I sold systems to all went bankrupt.
Not because of the security systems.
The security was great, but I ended up with cannabis compliance in 2017. So it was really kind of in the heyday of when things were going.
I remember that year.
Craziest.
Crazy year.
It was a really, really, really wild time. So that's when I got into weed, professionally full time. It was kind of something I was targeting, but now I'm working with a cannabis consulting firm that's focusing strictly on that. So worked with them until Deloitte purchased us. I stayed with Deloitte for 12 months. I was not meant to be at Deloitte.
No?
No.
You don't want to wear a suit to work?
Well, I got a nice collection of sport coats, I'm not going to lie, but I'd always wear a gold weed pin on my lapel.
Nice.
So at that time, the members of Deloitte, and there's a big office, they didn't know that Deloitte bought this cannabis group. So I used to have a man bun back then, right? I had long hair, and here's this gold weed pin, and people looked at me like I had 15 heads, so it was super fun. But being a consultant, you don't know what you don't know, right? And I didn't realize that until I jumped ship and started to work for a co-processor. So now I'm on the license side, and co-processing is all we're doing. We don't have any in-house brands. So what was fun was I took all my contacts from all of those groups who had been licensed or going through the licensing process, and now it's just, hey, right? Now you're in business, and now I'm in a place where I can help you again.
Yeah.
right? So, we were able to bring in a lot of business and really kind of rode that wave. Unfortunately, that company went through a CCAA process as well. Nothing to do really with the business coming in, just like at that time, not a lot of money was available, and the money that was often wasn't the right money.
Right.
So classic tale. I stayed with them until the CCAA was finished, and then the timing was perfect. So I met up with John. Him and I had been meaning to get together for lunch. And he sent me an address like, hey, come meet me here for lunch. And I thought I was going to 30 Commercial, and I didn't even realize I put the address in Vaughan, and I show up here.
Okay.
And knowing what I know about security systems and buildings, as soon as I pulled up, I'm like, I'm at a fucking facility. Like, where am I?
The Eye of Sauron on the front of the building gave it away.
Right? But it was, I remember this to this day because John opens the door to greet me. And the look on his face, I was like, what is happening? Like, I don't know when I've ever seen John that excited. So then he takes me through it.
But you weren't around when he got his Segway then.
No, that was a pretty exciting day, too.
no.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting.
I wasn't.
There's
I
been some
can't
exciting days.
I can't compare. Maybe they're close.
Not quite. This was better.
So anyways, we go through a walkthrough, and I'm blown away. Like, I'd been in over 200 facilities, and to walk through this place was just like astonishing. Like, it really shows. So yeah, I mean, then I agreed to join, right, on the business development side. Now going backwards into 2022, much like John, myself and three of my friends had an idea to launch a brand. At the time, I'll spare the story, but it was two of us looking to launch a brand and other two friends that had a project. We ended up connecting, right? So Corey Way and Jeff Goldenberg are the two guys that were responsible for help building out the branding for Ministry of Sativa. So they had that fully built. And then my other business partner, Paul, and I had every mechanism and license holder to get product out to market, but didn't know a fucking thing about branding. So it was a really synergistic relationship. So launched that in November 2022, really having been in the space for such a long time, knowing that people don't often grow sativas, and if they do, they're usually not good. I'm a musician, and I like to smoke weed to really, I don't know if I have ADHD, but it often feels like I do.
I've known you long enough. You got
so cannabis definitely
concur.
helps that. And we really couldn't find anything that we liked. So we started working on that project, knowing that the brand was built out. Now we're trying to find all the rest of the stuff.
Okay.
So we're able to find some really good grow partners who had exactly what we needed at the time. The quality of the product has continued to get better since 2022. But yeah, it kind of all got itself put together. So really targeting people who are trying to smoke weed and not get devastated, right? There's a time and a place for that, and I love getting devastated too. But if you are smoking weed through the day to sort of keep yourself on track, like the big heavy joints or even something that's super heavy is not necessarily conducive to me getting my shit done. So that was the premise, and
It is conducive to a good time, however.
100%. I love a good time. But that was kind of the premise. And we launched November 2022, classic cannabis story. We launched with the wrong partner. We're, going through some legal issues with them right now. But long story short, they never paid us a dime of the money that went through them. So that's when we shifted away from them and then moved ministry into here, into JointCraft, which was always part of the conversation when I agreed to come here. It made perfect sense to bring the. It's
not like there's no room.
There's well, even with the room, I'll come back to that. When we first started here, I mean, our original intent to shift away from ministry was we wanted to rent rooms out to people,
right?
Because the idea was like, this place is huge. Like we don't need all this.
How do you
space,
fill all this space?
right? And then we ended up realizing now it's like there's no way we could have someone else in here because like we're starting to dance back there now. So but yeah, brought ministry over here. We've been back in market since March of this year. The transition took a little longer than we had hoped. We were probably out of market a little over 3 months, which was kind of tough. But considering all of our money was taken from us, it was like a bit of a bootstrap rebuild. So launched back in March this year, and things were honestly quite a bit better than what they were before, as far as our sales, our presence, and the products that we have out now. Honestly, I much prefer to what we launched with. So we've got a few SKUs out now.
And some really cool stuff coming down the pipe.
One really exciting
can and cannot discuss. But let me ask you a question, because I've seen this a few times, and I'll highlight with Sheesh, right? So there's dips, whatever the uncertainties are, whatever causes it. We find ourselves in these dip times, right? Certain brands, and especially those that aren't necessarily producing their own, they're sourcing it. What does that do to your brand? Like, let's say in your case, you said like 3 months, right? I know some that have been 6 months, 9 months. And like, what happens to, like, is it, because the whole loyalty issue in cannabis is something that also comes into effect, right? There's a ton of different SKUs, which I'd love to touch on as well. Like, should OCS be carrying so many SKUs? But what happens during, you've got 3 months. If you were to go 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, are you dead?
Hard. Well, I don't know about dead. It's hard, I will say, because if you don't have a huge following, then how are they going to know if you don't find a way to tell them?
And when you say following, help us understand that as well.
Well, even with that, there's only so many things you can do, and I don't know how many times our Instagram page has been shut down. So it's tough. It really is hard. And being out of market for 3 months it made it really difficult. But the positive was that our initial SKU that we had in market was a 3.5 gram flower that was a general listing. And there was, at the time of us looking to do our transfer, there was a considerable amount of inventory still in the OCS.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, we're going to get an RTV and this is really going to hurt.
RTV.
Mind you, it was an RTV to our partner who stole our money. Oh. So, right. So I don't know how much it really would have hurt us, but I saw it as a problem. Mm-hmm. So because it took so long, it actually ended up being a blessing because we didn't have any new shipments going into the stores who did know about us were still ordering us.
Oh,
so they didn't even realize we were gone.
Wow.
Whereas for us, I was out of market, right? So if you think about how long we were really out of stock, like really it was probably only 3 weeks.
Wow.
So, I mean, that ended up being a blessing. But even coming back into market, like we had to do everything we could to try to tell people that, right? And we were fortunate to be, when we launched in March, we had signed up to do Can Expo with our friends, The Drip.
Oh, yeah.
And JointCraft joined the booth too, which was an amazing time. But it was perfectly timed. When we agreed to do Can Expo, we weren't certain when the product was going to launch because we agreed to do it the year prior, right at the end of the year.
Right.
So it really worked out well. You know, a lot of foot traffic at that Can Expo. That we really enjoyed that show. So it was a great opportunity. We were coincidentally very up front.
You were right at the front, right near the snacks as well.
That made a huge difference because now we were able to talk to all those retailers and bud tenders who were familiar with us and a lot that weren't. Right, so now we're back on their radar. So that really made a huge difference and coincidentally timed, but very thankful for that.
Well, and are we? Because I want to go back to the following, right? And you joked about the Instagram pages. You know, Meta's a motherfucker when it comes to anything cannabis. But Wes discovered, what was it, 3 weeks ago? He could have bought some crack. I think it was literally crack.
There was
wasn't it?
legitimate paid for ad on Instagram, Meta approved ad, and you click on that link, and it's a Canadian online retail for cocaine. And
spray
ketamine
cocaine
and heroin.
Probably cannabis companies trying to hedge their bets.
But it's one thing if that's a post that doesn't get taken down. It was an approved ad, which is what's the.
But it's not only that. It's because the ads sometimes can sneak by and maybe they don't see it. But if the algorithm is smart enough to say see real because there's something there that you're not supposed to see and it'll blur it out for you. If it's smart enough to know that, then it already knows what that is. You know what I mean? So why can I, and this is terrible, but I've seen more murders on Instagram than just about anything else. But why is that? That's okay. But if I show a photo of weed and say, so there's ways to trick it, right? And it says like buy or anything about product, flag,
the sell words,
right? You know, there are a lot of ways to fool that if you add layers to your photos, right? And even with some of our stuff, we put lines through the words. You can still read it, but the algorithm can't.
Yeah, I've seen what you've been doing,
right? So there's ways to play with that, and we've learned that. Yeah, and we've had our page shut down a couple times, and we've had a lot of red flags.
But outside of social, like what are you doing to continue to be top of mind? Because really, that's what it comes down to at this point in time, right? It's so many SKUs available. You go into a well-stocked dispensary, you could be looking 500 to 700 SKUs. There's always something new.
Well, you're sitting in it, Tom.
Yeah,
well, you're something a little new.
Your Can Expo booth was great. Like Pinnrz was right behind you as well. You had all your swag on those rolls. So that's, I mean, that's one, right? But
I mean, I think it's just trying to be as visible as possible, and without, you know, you can go broke trying to be visible, and marketing can be very expensive. So, you know, you want to have people that are visible at retailers. I think the unfortunate truth for a small brand is that, you know, targeting a lot of independent stores can sometimes be really hard because they're one store, and it's you always have to be circling back to them. And when 16 plus 100 stores, And unless you've got 50 people on the road, it can be very tough. So a lot of it's just trying to leverage relationships that we've all had. I think one of the benefits is having been around the space for so long that, you know, I've seen people who started their career here and have now, you know, they've ping-ponged their way and now maybe they're in the right place.
Yeah.
Right. And as I've gotten older in my career, all my friends have worked their way into better positions, and now it makes the conversations a little easier. Yeah. Right. And
well, that's for you, but I'm talking
I'm
like
very thankful for that.
Yeah,
I mean, the alternative, truthfully, I had someone ask me this about helping with a micro get to market. And I was like, I don't have the bandwidth to help with that. Like, that's a lot of work.
And why do you want to do that?
It's a lot of work. It really is. And, you know, on your OCS SKU thing, you're competing against a lot of things. And, you know, for better or for worse, we all have little squirrel brains and are easily distracted by something new and shiny. Right. So, it is really hard. And, you know, I think there is an emergence of a lot of really great products out now, which it's better than we've ever seen it.
Well, on that note, though, because are you guys one of those that there are some brands who feel it seems like they have to pump a new SKU out once every 3 months?
No.
They pump something out brand new, then they move on to the next rather than focusing on really promoting and pumping what they've already got. Are you guys the opposite of that? Or?
Yeah, a little bit. Like our Durban diesel has kind of been our staple. And you know, we've kind of been monitoring. It's like, well, because we kind of expect, like, at some point, you know, you got to pull the rug and you got to move on. But it's like people are still really enjoying it. And like, I'm not saying that what everyone would always hope for is that you have that PSF Pink Kush or the MTL Sage and Sour, like the one that just timeless and goes forever. Right. And I'm not saying that the Durban is that. I don't know. That's up to people to decide. But so far, the sales have still been strong. So, you know, I'm open to changing it. But you know, people are still buying it. I still really love it. Amy really loves it. So we've kind of held that, and we've introduced some new genetics and a couple new formats from where we were before. And then we have this really exciting drop that is coming in February.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Which I certainly can talk more about. But we're doing a collab. So, you know, we've all got lots of friends in this industry, and I think far too often brands pit themselves against each other. And that's not what weed used to be. Right. You used to make money with your friends, and that was kind of what it was fun, right? Prior to legalization. So, our good friends at Northern Canna and Ministry have a collab launching in February, called the Yin Yang Pack.
Oh, cool.
We actually have a pretty neat custom bag that's being made, which I'll save, for you guys to see. But we've got a 2x7 gram. No, they're in print right now, with no pressure to get here in January. But 2x7 gram. So we've got a Chocolope OG going on our side, and they've got a sticky glue going in on their side. Wow. So super pumped about that, because it's, as far as I know, I think it's probably one of the first where two brands get together on one package. So I'm hoping that helps promote other brands to start to do that too.
Yeah. How important, John? You haven't done much collab. Right,
no.
Like because you've got the three brands right now. So we remind everyone we've got Pinnrz, AAA, and Woodyz.
Yeah,
and it's like, what is the rise of each of those as it's compared to the market, right? Because we've seen, like, when you brought out Woodyz, I was like, oh, I like these. I like these wood tips, but holy shit, how much is this going to cost, right? Like, what are all the things that are going into factoring? We're going to bring a product to market. You know, we see other collabs, and sometimes it's just they're in and they're out, they're gone. This one sounds like a match made in heaven, though, by the way.
I agree.
So what are your general thoughts on that?
Well, so I think, you know, Ministry is different than Pinnrz or Woodyz. AAA is a bit of a thing, so I'll set that kind of into its own category. Pinnrz is a format, right? So, you know, our theory about it is, you know, you're buying a pinner because you like the size and the shape and the pack of the joint. Yeah. And you're never going to get crap weed in a pinner, ever.
I don't think I've ever had any. As a matter of fact, never had any.
We always go out and find the best representative strains to describe the flavor profiles, which blue is gassy, yellow is fruity, citrusy, and purple is a balance. And that's what goes in there. So you're just zero compromise on the flower. Like the same stuff that's selling for, you know, $50, $60 3.5 gram jars is the same stuff that's in our joints. And no word of a lie. With Woodyz, it's very much the same. It's a format. It's a chamomile leaf with a wood tip. We do a bubble hash infused version and we do a non-infused version. So for us, it's not always about like trying to run to market with this new innovation every 3 months, but to actually let these formats exist and create options for consumers that aren't the standard.
Yeah.
And we recognize they're a little bit niche, but that's okay. Pinnrz is kind of ubiquitous like Kleenex, and if you want a pinner, chances are Pinnrz makes the best pinners out there. So.
Yeah. When did you launch the balance? Because I remember when you came out, Pinnrz, I'm like, obviously I'm going to support you, I'm going to try it, and I was like in love, but I've joked before and said, I'm getting older, I don't know, I don't like greening out, and some of it's risky for me, especially in the sativas, right? And I've gotten into these 1-to-1s. So when did you bring that one out to market though? Because
that was our third SKU.
Okay.
So we launched with blue and yellow.
Yeah.
And while we were kind of watching those get out into market, we recognized that the gamut of CBD included, because I wouldn't even say we're CBD dominant. We're actually like 2-to-1 THC to CBD.
Right.
But like those balanced or CBD strains, like there's not a lot of options. And the ones that were out there, like there were 1 or 2 good ones and like 6 or 7 terrible ones that just did not taste
as
very
I've
good.
gone the gauntlet with them, I'm like, yeah, I won't touch that one. But my top faves, I don't know. Obviously, you're sourcing what you can get, but I think you always go back, right? Is that?
Well, so what we do is we'll go out and the purple itself gives us a bit of an advantage actually, because we'll find a really good CBD first strain, and then we'll take either like a blue or yellow flower that is a little gassier or a little fruitier, depending kind of on what that CBD strain tastes like, and that's what we'll incorporate with it to get that THC level up to where we want. So you're actually getting like a half a blue and a whole bunch of CBD weed inside of purple, and that's what gives you that really nice flavor, but also that balance profile that you're looking for.
Yeah, love them. I love them. And one of the other ones, so you should talk to Jay, because Jay has the Purple Mountain Majesty.
Okay.
My match in heaven would be figuring out the Purple Mountain Majesty mixed with the gas. Oh, baby.
Okay.
Like I would
Jay.
be like Jay.
Hit us up.
Jay.
Yeah.
Get Jay. I don't know if he's sitting on. They're beautiful nugs too. And one of the things that you've probably noticed. Sorry, Wes. one of the things you've probably noticed is the flower size in the CBD market is typically not.
Usually smaller.
Popcorn.
Popcorn.
And when I had gotten some Purple Mountain Majesty, I opened the bag and I was like, "What the fuck?" It was like 8 nugs in a 7-gram SKU. And I was like, there's no way this can be CBD flower. There's just no way, right? But yeah, it's definitely one of the top ones for me.
Right
there you go. Yeah, he's up there. And they've made a huge, I think for Mendo, Jay. Have you met Jay?
I don't know if I've met Jay in person. Maybe at a show or two, but we've definitely spoken before.
Super nice guy. I think what I loved, they've got the medical platform, which was born out of need, right? Poor Quebec. Poor Quebec. You might be getting vapes. I don't know how they're going to do it in the 30. But
not much flavor in those vapes. So just saying.
Yeah. But, then they moved their Mendo Select product to market as well. And they've been crushing it in that area as well, right? So you talk Durban Poisons, some of these OG strains, they have them available. But for you guys, I mean, Pinnrz, I like that. It's a format. And, you can rely on your blue or your yellow. And now for Tom, you just tell me. You just did it for me. You just did it for me. The purples are just for Tom.
The purples are just for Tom.
Yeah,
that's it.
There we go.
No one can have purples but Tom. No,
Yeah.
no. Please try the purples are great. I really enjoy them.
Phenomenal.
Too. Yeah.
And where does AAA stand in there?
AAA is more of a value-focused brand. We're trying to deliver really high-quality product at a really reasonable price inside of AAA. So, if you're looking at our 14-gram bags or you're looking at our 7 by 0.5 gram SKUs, like those are all primo weed at a more reasonable value-based price. And we achieve that through the efficiency we've realized in manufacturing.
Right.
We make some of the, highest quality, but also some of the most efficient and cost-effective joints in the country. So, this is us flexing a little bit on that. Longer term, I think JointCraft is going to clarify its focus a little bit. I think we'll probably sunset AAA in the next few months and focus more on Woodyz and Pinnrz and some of the things we're doing there. And obviously the co-manufacturing side of the business, I mean, that represents so much of what we do here. Yeah. And that's ultimately where our focus now primarily resides. So we want to make sure we're servicing those clients 100% all the way through and making sure they're getting great joints too.
Yeah. Well, and I think that when you talk about the efficiency, obviously, I come from operations, right? Background manufacturing. And if you remember me joking in the days of Ample, John send me out somewhere. I'd go to a facility. I come back and I go, yeah, they're just not going to make it. Yeah. they're just not going to be like, why? Can they pay their bills? I'm like, well, they'll pay their bills for a little while, but they're just not going to make it.
I said the same thing at CCI. We sign a deal and go in and see my boss. He high fives me because we're all getting paid. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. That one didn't feel good.
Because I'm looking at it from a Six Sigma standpoint, right? Looking at it just as pure manufacturing operations. And I'm thinking, you're drying over there, you're harvesting way the hell on the other side of there. Like, why? What the hell are you doing? Like, and those were the simplest of things, right? But for me, I'd come back and I'd be like, yeah, they're just not going to make it. And almost every time, whether it took a year or 4 years, they just didn't make it. And one of the things that I noticed, with JointCraft anyways, is dialing in the processes. Like it's
OCD.
It definitely is.
So there's something I want to say, because I've said this before, is I was in contract manufacturing, right? And we made millions and millions and millions of pre-rolls. But the pre-rolls themselves it was a profit exercise, right? There was no real passion into ensuring that what the customer got, or the customer being the other license holder, and subsequently their customer, what they get is what they should get. Right. It was get them out. So we can invoice.
Fuck it, ship it.
Fuck it and ship it, right? Yeah. Whereas here, it's almost like the passion for the product is what's going to drive the profit.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So coming from a contract manufacturing environment and seeing all of the standard technology that's being used and over 300 people in a 50,000 square foot facility, it was madness. But you come into this place and you see how this place operates and you look at the side by side, right? And we've never had a customer complaint. I've been here for a year and a half. I've never had a customer complaint. We've had a paperwork thing here or there, which is which is bound to happen when you're pushing out about 1 million units a week. But we've never had like a quality complaint, right? And then prior to my time, they had never had a quality complaint either, right? So it's kind of fascinating to see the flip. Whereas so many people got into weed because it was all profit. And I mean, when I was helping people get licenses, I saw that greed. It's like buying a condo to flip. Like, people wanted to get their readiness letter and they were looking to sell those things. Yeah. Right. So it was a completely different time. So to come in here where like there's a real palatable company culture, and it's driven by like a passion for making sure that what our clients get is what you would want, it's really made my job super easy. Right? You bring them in here, they get to meet the team, they see the finished product quality. It's really just kind of tied it all together.
And for anyone, you can obviously see, I remember the early days coming through with John. I don't know how many tours I've just accompanied people on, and I'm still, every time I'm like, fuck this space, man. Like, don't leave me alone. You almost need those kindergarten ropes to hold everyone together. So everyone hold onto the rope. Tom, you're not holding the rope, but you yourself are passionate just in touring people around. You can see the excitement.
Yeah. Well, we're really excited about what we have. We're fortunate to take over a place. I call this Cannabis 4.0, which is people getting to take over other people's facilities for pennies on the dollar. Right. And going back to when there was the big licensing boom, 2017, 2018, 2019, a lot of the times it was the wrong people getting into it because they were coming into it for the wrong thing. Whereas you'd see a lot of my friends on the legacy side that were the right people to get into it, but were unable to because you needed $100 million to get started. So it wasn't
a license to print money.
No.
A license to start a cannabis business.
Right.
That maybe if you work really, really, really hard and are really, really good at it, that might make some money.
Let me ask you this then. Okay, so we see this happening quite a bit now, where people are coming in, maybe they're shifting focus, they're moving into new facilities. Those were built, right? They're almost ghost towns. Is that the future still? Are you seeing, or do you think you will see new builds outside of micro? Micro is not a qualifier.
Yeah, no.
I think it depends. It depends on, I think it's unlikely. There are a lot available, right? So
You're certainly not going to see another one like this.
no,
Ever.
There would be no need
So overkill.
to
Does
build a
this place have
facility like
this
this.
place had a vault.
It did. It's right in the. It's basically like if you were to shoot a laser through
it's
the
right
wall
there.
right there. It's right there.
Okay. Yeah.
It has an air gap around it. It was a level
Oh, we
9
did.
vault.
We did go in
moat.
there.
Right.
We did
yes.
go in there when we were
That's
here.
right. Yeah.
It's a retention sample vault now, but
A lot of fucking samples.
yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah,
samples.
It's we have to keep those for 2 years.
Yeah.
So from the date of last sale, which I don't actually think we know what the date of last
we don't
sale
even
is
know
because
when
the
that is.
customer sells it. So
right.
I assume it's 2 years after the customer ordered it,
Yeah.
or we delivered it to the customer. And but they stack up. We've got a lot of
Well, and
lot of
so
weed
it was
in
funny because I saw, who was it? Oh, Alana Davis. So Dabble.
Yeah.
She had posted something. Obviously, I'm a little bit familiar with the regulations, especially in record keeping. Not as familiar as you, John, but quite familiar. I slept with those regs for quite a while. But she had posted 25 years. I can't believe I have to keep this for 25 years. And I'm like, what are you talking about on the medical side? Like, this isn't an adverse reaction, if I remember the key words, right?
No, the adverse reaction reports. Yeah, the irony of it all is that, if you think about it, anyone that would have had a medical platform big enough to actually have taken those adverse reaction reports in and have logged them are probably all bankrupt by now.
Yeah, they're all gone.
So where are those records?
Well, that's what, yeah.
We probably threw some of them out
We may have.
because there was a lot of records.
No,
here.
I think FINA had retained
they took
some
them.
consultancy, like their monitor or whatever, had shoved a whole bunch of stuff into some long term, document storage. But I mean, what's the point?
I know of no other industry other than pharma and where you would see adverse reaction, right? That would have that type of mandate on 25 years. I mean, we're talking cannabis.
But a lot of the regs for cannabis were based off of like pharma backing, right?
That's fair, but I
things
mean-
went live. I'm not saying I'm not justifying it.
Now we're 10
Don't
years
you
into
dare
it.
justify it.
But in order for regs to change, like if you go back to when things first started and when they got rid of the vault, well, it took some time and a lot of people complaining about how this isn't required and it shouldn't be required, and here's all the reasons and proof for that for the regs to change.
Right.
So it's going to take years of being a mosquito and coming in with proof and evidence that something needs to change for them to make a change. Otherwise, it's status quo.
Okay, so you both get one.
Ooh.
One.
Oh, no.
And we're going to take a break shortly, and then we're going to come back and we're going to understand the sensory room and everything behind it, because it's not the easiest thing to get. You get one gripe about the right, not a bunch. One gripe.
So
no.
many. Come on, Tom.
One
Tom,
gripe.
Come on,
Tell
come
right.
on.
This is your letter to Santa. Okay, you
Oh,
get one
my
gripe.
goodness.
If Santa can change one thing about the regs, they don't have to be the same. They can be different, but you only get one.
Okay, I'll start.
My God, I don't even know what I'm going to say.
John's he'd fucking wordsmith anyone. So I could just imagine you're gonna weave like 6 different gripes into fucking.
No. I'm only
Watch the
gonna
magic.
I'm only
The
gonna go
magic
with.
is
I'll
coming.
make
I
one.
kind of feel like I need you to say it right down the camera so we can send it right down to Health Canada.
Yeah.
Just look right in
this
the eye.
This one's to Canada Revenue Agency, Health Canada, and the provincial authorities. Excise tax should be collected at the provincial level. The licensees should not be remitting it. The provinces have tons of money. They pay for all the product. They should be remitting the excise tax. You will get paid your excise tax if the provinces are collecting it.
You won't have to chase people going through CCAA.
Well, and did you see that report that
Yes.
said, "Oh, we only lost 9.5"?
Only.
Bullshit.
There's no fucking way. There's no way.
Bullshit.
But why? Justify why they would have the LPs remitting that. Why?
I don't actually know.
I can't think of any valid reason.
Well, I assume it has something to do with the medical sales, but I mean, if you have a medical license, then you should just remit excise taxes on those sales independently, but your recreational adult use sales to the provinces. The provinces should be dealing with the remission of excise taxes. We should not be applying stupid excise tax stamps. That is the most ridiculous thing. When we signed up for that account, I had to write a letter of authorization to the CRA to authorize Canadian Banknote to take the excise tax stamps that I was purchasing from them, move them to the opposite side of their facility, and apply the glue
oh my God.
before they send it to me. These are the hoops that we go through, and it just seems like sometimes like there's just no central mind anywhere involved that can look at the the macro of what's going on from a regulatory
they're all
framework.
not talking to each
If
other.
I had to
right?
guess,
Left hand.
guess, I'd say John is a big fan of what Elon's about to do with Doge down in the United States.
Oh boy, oh boy! I do have a giant portrait of Elon Musk at the top of my stairs, but I'll be the first one to preface that.
Somehow we managed to keep that within the family.
That's right.
I don't. It must have been a mastermind behind the
Weird
scenes.
how that happened. But another one
we'll
for
get
the
to that
collection.
too.
Oh yes, we will.
Akerna
But
exists no more.
that's
so.
right. But I will say that I have a love-hate relationship there. When I think about Elon, but I think that the Department of Governmental Efficiency and this mandate to sunset regulations or regularly reassess regulations to make sure if they're still applicable, this is common sense.
Yes.
This is something that should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah, I agree with that. Andrew, you get one gripe.
Honestly, the same thing. Except
No,
I swear. I'll say something differently. But the only thing I will extend onto that is part of the problem is when they made cannabis legal, the whole goal was to eliminate the black market, right? And then there's.
I thought it was to protect the youth.
Well.
Oh wait, wasn't it to? No.
Now we're getting lost.
Wait, let me get the scroll out.
They wanted to eliminate the black market, right, and provide safe cannabis for everyone to consume. But really what's happening is that now that outside of the provincial markups, which is a conversation for another day, that excise tax being baked into our sold unit cost going to the OCS is now being marked up and sales taxed on multiple levels.
Yeah.
So if you eliminated all of the markups on that excise tax and put it at the end, the finished unit would be significantly cheaper and it would be better for everybody.
Yeah.
The OCS can still make their hunk of flesh and everyone can move on.
Jonathan Wilson's all over this right now.
Well, he had a very excellent post recently, which I watched more than once, to be honest, because not only was it well edited, Jonathan, well done to you and your team or whoever did that, with all those heritage
TV moments.
Really,
Not
really
everyone
good.
is old enough to know those either.
No, I'm very familiar, but he put it together really well, right? And it highlighted some of the kind of gross issues that are happening with our industry, and
they are gross.
It is gross, but it ends up with people paying more for a product than they need to pay, only because of the way that this whole thing is structured.
Wes, who was it that brought up? So someone had brought up the concept, because we've talked about this a bunch, which is you're never going to affect it unless the consumer knows, right? You got to have a large demographic.
It was Jonathan. He
Jonathan?
He said when you go to the gas pumps now, you see the breakdown per liter of what all those taxes are, right? X amount goes to the government. If none of these existed, this is how much your gas would cost. So there's a little sticker there that says this is what that tax breakdown is.
So for every dollar spent right now, gentlemen, you're closer to it than I am, but I think it's around 75 cents of every dollar spent is going to taxes. Is it not?
It's wild.
It's
I mean,
crazy.
there's some other ways to kind of think about it. Like, a way to think about it is we purchase a gram of distillate wholesale. We buy it commercially for under $2 a gram. So we paid $2 for that 1 gram of distillate. That distillate would probably come in at 92-93% THC potency. When I go to sell that, I have to pay $9.30 in excise tax. Now, when the provincial distributor receives it and apply in Ontario, they are going to apply, I believe it's another 29% on top of that excise. So 30% of that $9 and change. So that's another $3. So now we're at 12. And then it's going to get to the retailer. And they're going to mark it up another 30 to 39%.
Plus sales tax.
Plus sales tax on top of that. So by the time you're done, the excise tax you're paying on the excise tax plus the markups on the excise tax plus the taxes on the excise tax
on a $30
taxes on tax
is like $17 on a 1 gram of distillate.
My God.
That we paid $2 for. So this is the problem, and I think this is what the consumer really doesn't understand is, throughout legalization, our public officials went out there and they said, we have 5 pillars of legalization, which is keeping it out of the hands of youth, elimination of the black market, protecting public health and safety. I can't remember what the other two were. But frankly, actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
And what we see is a profit motivation to fill the government coffers with more money.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just echoing, I think, the general Canadian sentiment right now is like, holy shit, guys. Like, you can't even run the government for the $500 billion plus we give you every year, and you're still running deficits. This is out of control.
And then, let's fix everything by cutting the GST or HST for.
But that's okay. You can go buy that hard liquor in the gas station and then get in your car,
drive it off a cliff because I'm so depressed,
or buck a beer.
Jeez.
And like, we're in Vaughan, we can't eat. We're in a weed desert. There's no dispensaries in Vaughan either.
I still can't
like,
believe that.
That would be another gripe. Would be the municipal prohibition on retail. We are a federal license holder. The AGCO made a carve out for licensed producers and allowed us to have a farm gate store. Farm gate, just like a craft brewery. Right? They can sell their cans of beer at their craft brewery.
You can't do that here?
No, because
of the municipality.
Because of the municipality.
God.
So they somehow that municipal choice overrides our provincial right as a federal license holder. Which to me is just backwards.
Which we might find a way to push on.
Well, I think it will be pushed on, and I think it'll come in the form of campaign donations and a very, very active JointCraft in municipal politics when the next municipal election is coming around. So
I never thought about that. So if the municipality will not allow dispensaries, obviously they're not going to allow a farm gate, right? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, so the way it was explained to me is that the wording of the rule is basically that the municipality can either opt in or opt out of cannabis retail entirely.
Okay.
And that's the problem. Is there's no exception or carve out for farm gate. It's just treated as another retail store authorization.
Wow.
Have you heard of
which is
anything?
horribly wrong. It's horribly wrong, but here we are.
Is there any rumblings or anything of why or?
No. And I mean, I think our provincial government is more focused on putting, tearing down the science center and putting beer in convenience stores everywhere. No one's paying attention to cannabis, and it seems like nobody cares. This has just become
for a long time.
a big profit center for government, and at the same token, the industry gets such little service from the government.
Right. Well, they're sitting back and just collecting as much money as possible.
Oh, this is what they do, and then they just laden it with bureaucracy.
Yeah.
You know how many CCAAs and how many hundreds of millions of dollars of profit for people who just went like this.
Yeah, it's not like it's a spike. It's been happening since the beginning, right? How often did I get called into Ben's office going, "We got another CCAA letter from."
Well, I mean,
X
frankly,
company.
I mean, even CanTrust, like, should that have happened? Like, this is a great, ethical question. It's like, you have this 400,000 square foot greenhouse. You went in, you did all your paperwork. You got your license. Health Canada said, okay, you as a company, you are authorized to produce cannabis. And so you do in the rooms they've authorized. And then, you submit your amendments and you're waiting for their approval and you're waiting. And 2 years later, you still don't have your approval. And you just move plants into those rooms and then they come in and smack you with the hammer and pull your license. Now, I get why they did it. Like, the executive team of CanTrust very much did not conduct themselves appropriately.
Yeah, there were some issues there.
But, I think that was a situation that could have been remedied. This was the only reason the plants were in there was due to bureaucratic bullshit, frankly. There's no reason that it should take 2+ years for someone to look through a licensing amendment and approve it. But this is the story as old as time in this business is, things take forever to get done because we have to rely on the public sector to do it. And it's really disappointing as a private operator, to have to go through this. It's painful.
Well, you're playing the long game with a small bank account.
Well, there's no accountability, right? There's zero accountability. If an inspector came in here and was a complete, completely unprofessional and rude, there would be no recourse for us to deal with that. We pay you a lot of money, we're enabling this whole thing. We're the participants of this program. So isn't your job to help support and keep this program going, not come in here and swing a hammer around. So it's just this really heavy-handed regulatory attitude around cannabis. And I don't know what fostered that. So anytime we've approached regulators or gotten involved with everybody, we try to go in as collaborative as possible and transparent as possible. We have nothing to hide. We're not here to be non-compliant. But we're here to, also be very pragmatic. You have published a Cannabis Act and the cannabis regulations and the good production practices guidelines and the marketing guidelines. Great. That's the entire body of what Health Canada has basically published. That's what we're abiding by. right? We can't also abide by, rules that don't exist and that haven't been written down, or these phantom expectations that have come to exist within industry.
Yeah, the early days, remember, we'd hear the horror stories as the East Coast inspectors weren't talking to the West Coast inspectors, and SMS still existed during that time, but, and Hyde, David Hyde with his over-security plans, right? Love the guy. And then, 8-foot fence is required, but that 12-foot fence, that's really nice.
Well,
Let's put the 12-foot fence.
as someone who sold security systems, let me just say there are a few things that went into the original Planet Organigram that were not needed.
And a few other people too.
They were not needed.
Listen,
but
let's go ahead.
at that time, who
So
knew?
let's take a quick break. I'm going to refill some coffee, but first I want to talk about this because I got really excited.
Is this what I think it is?
This is Weedgets, right? So you remember we had Michael Borenbaum.
Here,
the
pass
guy's a
that over.
mad scientist. So yeah, see if you can get this on camera. I was excited because they were setting up a Toronto office and they were going to be able to distribute the Maze X pipe. This guy's he worked in medical devices for the longest time. And then he moved over into the cannabis space. So he's created these air quote safe, and I say air quote because I can't technically say they're safe. However, they are the only smoking devices that are backed or endorsed by the ACNA. That's the American Cannabis Nurses Association. Nothing to do with Canada. However, they are just a different method of smoking. So in this case, this is the Maze X pipe. They come with these charcoal filters that you can put in them.
I'll say really quickly, the big difference between that pipe and most other pipes is most pipes is a straight shot from the bowl right to your mouth.
Hot
right?
as hell.
And it's super hot.
I remember those. Remember those little one-hitters?
Yeah,
Lips on them?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why most people
Those
are.
were the fucking worst.
Terrible.
Michael's inventing a one-hitter with similar technologies, but you can put the charcoal filter, and it's not those cheap. Now, could you manufacture with these? Probably not. But for aftermarket, obviously it makes sense. And you stick your charcoal filter in the end, comes completely apart. Soak it in some ISO. Wes, maybe you can get that on cam.
But inside that bowl, instead of it being a straight shot down at the bottom, there's a ton of channels.
Okay.
And it wraps around and all that before it shoots straight out.
Yeah, you can pull it apart.
The
and
smoke
it's,
actually has time to cool down completely, and you don't get that
That's
coughing. And which is
Well,
really
as we
nice.
move into the sensory part of this episode, it is the holiday episode. We don't consume very often on cam, but in this case, this is what I love. I love the doob tubes. So very similar, right? You've got your mouthpiece, you stick a carbon or a charcoal filter in the end. If it's stinky, it's halfway in. Just put it in. This is nice anodized aluminum. I mean, how can you beat that? And when you don't want, you just beat someone with it.
Yeah. That's what I
Anyways,
thought.
we'll be back right after this break. This special episode of Legacies is proudly presented by Mendo. Mendo select premium products that meet the highest standards in quality, and my personal fave, Purple Mountain Magazine. We're also supported by Weedgets, innovative accessories designed to make your smoking experience smoother, cleaner, and more enjoyable. Special thanks to Aveo, dedicated to delivering quality products that focus on consistency and innovation. And of course, Stok'd, your go-to retailer for top-notch service and carefully curated products with 3 locations in Scarborough and 1 in Niagara Falls. Stewart Farms, bringing relaxation to anyone's routine, especially mine, with their thoughtfully crafted products. Finally, Sheesh, offering premium, strain-specific curated sodas and soon-to-launch gummies. Friends don't let friends drink mids. A huge thank you to all our sponsors for helping us bring Legacies to life. Welcome back, everyone. Again, Legacies Holiday Special. If you've stayed with us this long, we've got even more exciting content for you. But first, let's get started with our friends over at Stewart Farm. And I would like to say, because of the regulations, we don't just get shipped product. These producers go out, they purchase the product, they package it up, and they send it to us. They pay their excise tax. In this case, we've got Stewart Farms. Wes, play Santa, would you? Hold on.
Can I hand out? Oh, I would
Let's
pick
see.
mine first.
What?
So I'm just kind of display.
Oh, this is for Andrew.
Oh, I didn't even know I was getting
is for
gifts,
Andrew.
guys.
For Andrew. That must be John.
This one's for Tom.
Oh, well, let's just do that.
A little swap.
What are the
Secret
chances
Santa.
they might be the same?
Secret Santa.
Look
Oh
at
my
this.
goodness.
From Stewart Farms.
Oh, that's
So
so
Let's see what we
nice.
got.
So nice. Everyone
Big-
at the same time?
Big shout out to the
Everyone at the same time.
big shout out to them.
Let's see. What do we got here?
Oh, it's like black.
Ooh.
Oh,
I have a
fancy.
feeling that
Wow.
Christmas Day, the kids are not going to match anything that we've got going on in here.
Look at that.
What? Look at me pulling my
Look
ribbon
at
off already.
that.
All right. Let's
Keep your
see.
garbage out of the frame.
Yeah.
I threw mine over there. Chocolates.
These are so nice.
We got some Arctic Heat muscle cream.
Okay, so there's something really cool going on here. So the Arctic Heat, I've had a chance to sample this. This is
Okay.
a fucking godsend. I'll tell you that much. They have is this the roll-up stick? No way. Is this the Rebound? Feel the Arctic Heat. Okay, friends.
It is. Oh my god.
This one, so this is going to be available in Ontario in January, if I recall correctly. I've been waiting for this one. Oh my God. I'm not even joking when I say that for myself personally, John knows this because I'm always hurting myself and doing something, but the Rebound has been incredible in this Arctic Heat. It's not super overpowering.
Is there like a cover on? I don't.
Yeah, there's a
understand.
cover on
Yeah,
top
there's
of
a
the
plastic cover
It's
on top.
it's Westproof.
Oh, I see. It is.
This
really-
stick, this
I
stick
really,
is
really
lasting
like
me
the
forever.
smell. I
It's
really
incredible.
like the smell.
It
Yeah.
almost smells like you can eat it.
They've
subtle.
nailed the smell on that. And then what is this? Okay. So this one, I don't know if you guys have tried this.
No, but I already like
Have
what
you
it's
heard?
called.
Okay. This is daily. This is Daily Grape.
Oh,
I don't
shit.
know who spent their hard-earned money on this, if it was Mike or Tanner himself, but this is one of my favorite ever grape strains. Well, when it comes to grape, this is my favorite.
Well, I can tell you definitively, this was purchased.
Well, exactly.
And excise paid in the province of
Excise
New
paid.
We
Brunswick.
do not avoid the regulations. We know how much trouble we can get in. I'm trying to keep my
Smells good.
THC symbol.
Oh, and it looks,
wow.
it looks really
Holy
good.
shit.
Yeah, like it's when I tell you it's different, it's different. It's just different.
Well done, Stewart
And-
Farms.
And I can tell you,
Well, I'm
that-
very excited for this.
oh man,
It smells a
What do we got
lot
here?
louder than what the terpene ratings
Get
and the
on.
percentage
It does,
What's
eh? Yeah.
this?
Yeah, it is.
What do we have
Ooh.
here?
Yeah, that's really
Look at
nice.
all this.
What's in the black bag?
Here? I'm sorry, everyone watching, but you can.
Yeah, this is kind of a cluster at the moment. No one's really
What?
explaining.
Oh my
They're
God.
spoiling us.
Oh my God! Look at that.
Stewart Farms
Oh,
Christmas.
wow. Christmas ornament?
Okay, that's going
I
on
was
my
too
tree.
distracted by the weed.
Well, just so like, wow, this is awesome.
What's the white box? This
I don't know.
is-
Chocolates.
I'm afraid to get my nail in there. Okay, let's see. Oh, chocolates.
Oh my
You
goodness.
sound like that SpongeBob character.
Oh,
Chocolates.
Chocolates.
Are we gonna get mouth noises? Oh yeah,
Chocolate
here we
with
go.
ASMR.
Here we go.
It's
Oh my God.
So good.
they're not infused, are they? Did you check that first?
I don't care.
You know what that is?
It looks delicious.
Okay. So I'm from the East Coast, New Brunswick, actually. Stewart Farms, well done. This tastes like chicken bones. Do you know what chicken bones are?
It don't taste like chicken bones. It tastes like chocolate.
You know what chicken bones are?
I've
The
heard
candy?
of them, but no. What is that?
It tastes like chicken bones. I almost guarantee that's what this flavor is. I don't know if they all taste the same, but one of these round ones,
This one's
Holy
got raspberry in it. This one's nice.
These guys are they're
That is exactly what I needed right now.
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh my god.
Awesome. If I eat this whole box, I'll be crashed out here on the couch. At least we've
Now-
got couches.
Let me ask you this: do you think this is beautifully put together? Do you think Tanner put these together, or do you think it was Jen?
Fuck no.
Do you think it was Jen?
No.
No?
It would be. This was probably Mike. This was probably Mike.
Mike?
Yeah, Mike's their top marketing director, only marketing director as far
puts
as
together a nice gift box.
That's Mike Schumann.
No, Mike Cloney.
Oh, Mike Cloney.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Mike Cloney.
I have a high school buddy, Mike Schumann, who also works over at Stewart Farms. So big shout out to the Stewart Farms team.
Tanner, thank you. I'm a little
They've just-
disappointed you didn't put them together yourself, but we'll let it pass.
Tanner's
It was good.
way too busy breaking bones on Whistler. I'm smelling the mic now instead of smelling.
It smells
Rub
so
that,
smells great.
Rub that on here so you can.
I'm excited about this, and I'm not blowing smoke up anyone's ass.
No, you've
I've
been
tried
talking
the
about that
heat.
for a
I've
while.
tried the cream.
It does
It's
smell
gone.
delicious.
It is so good.
It smells edible.
See if I can.
But
hit
they
the
nailed.
garbage.
They nailed. It's not over. Like in your face menthol. Do you know what I mean? So, anyways, for those in Ontario, as far as I remember, you can find these in January. I'm not endorsing or telling you to go buy them, but if you happen to, yeah, I can't do anything about that. I personally
Should you
enjoy
happen
them.
to.
And I'm not a celebrity, so I can say whatever I want.
That's debatable.
I can say objectively they smell fantastic.
There you go.
Yeah, objectively.
Oh man, Lisa, I love you, and I love this. I love this hockey jersey, but it might have to come off.
A little toasty in here.
Whew, she's getting warm in here. All right, so this is what I need to understand. So, the sensory room, gorgeous, and thank you for designing it pretty much exactly like our set.
You're welcome.
What the hell goes into it? The only one that I knew of previously was lit research, right? So what goes into getting an application filed and approved? I could imagine it's a nightmare like everything else, or
Yeah, a little bit. It's Health Canada licensing process. We go through for our non-therapeutic research license. Lit also has one of these research licenses. Several licensed producers actually have them, but I think traditionally the experience has really been smoking in a boardroom or smoking in a quality assurance office, which
in a lab coat under bright lights.
yeah, no, seriously, or
For real.
you're fucking my high up guy.
It's true though. A lot of them are like that.
yeah, and or having the QA standing there in their lab coat watching over you. Taking observational data. It's not a comfortable vibe. And I think the stupidity of it is you're trying to validate, does this product taste good? How does it make me feel? Is it constructed well? And you're trying to get all this opinion about the product.
Yeah.
If you put somebody in an anxiety and paranoia inducing
As soon
environment.
as and you're being serious. I mean, this is the way a lot of the
serious,
research is conducted. It is lab coats. It's in a white, stark room. It's, it's not fun.
No, it's not
by
fun.
any means.
It's not fun at all.
But
It's
cannabis
horrible.
isn't meant to be fun.
No, never
no,
was. No, never was meant to be fun.
No. So we're trying to make weed fun again.
Yeah.
And research can be fun. So, we obviously have to keep you for a little while after consumption. It's called a washout period. It's part of so we basically put this whole research protocol together. We filed it with Health Canada. Health Canada has reviewed and approved our research protocol. So that's the protocol that we follow. And basically we keep you, you consume the product, you fill out a questionnaire. We keep you for a little bit to basically let those effects pass and make sure you're safe to leave the facility, which is why we created this environment. Because frankly, the smoking part's over pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's the social environment in which you have to exist for the next 30 to 45 minutes. We wanted to fill it with things to entertain yourself, whether that's the slot machines behind you, the poker table, and not necessarily saying that you have to play poker,
I
but
bet 3 joints.
I mean, 100%. You could play some euchre, you could play some bridge, or whatever, whatever it is you want to play. War. We have some pinball machines coming for this chamber out front, which is sort of our waiting area. We've built this crazy multicolored education bar, which is not
so cool.
It's not an alcohol bar.
No,
it's just it's a place for people to gather and learn. And then we also have the lounge area kind of off to the one side with a restored 1971 Seaberg jukebox.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Beautiful.
That's so
beautiful.
Cool.
It's fun,
So
and
nice.
we're in the process of filling it with records. And we hope to add more cool stuff in here.
If you have any records,
Yeah,
45s.
please.
Yeah, 45s.
45s.
You have any 45s you want to send to JointCraft? I'm sure
That's
they will
right.
gladly
We will
accept
add them to the collection. But yeah, so we just really wanted to create this playground for you to come in and sort of experience with your senses. And hopefully we want to see how that impacts feedback. And some of the elements in here are dynamic, so we can change them to see if that has a play on the feedback as well.
Right,
Over the next 6 to 12 months, we'll experiment a little bit, and we'll see sort of how the environment in which you're in impacts the feedback that you're providing about the products that you're consuming.
That's really cool. And obviously there's tech involved, right? You hail from tech, and Evan's still
Evan
here.
McEwen, yeah.
We got apps. It's pretty fancy, man.
It is.
It's pretty fancy. And to your point, Andrew, I mean, we joke about it, but if you brought me into a lab facility, right? Not this, into a lab facility, you go here, smoke this, or whatever form of consumption, I'm not going to have a good time. I'm not you're not going to get critical feedback from me because it's all going to be negative probably.
It's super awkward. I've been in multiple, like John said, there are a lot of LPs who do have this license and it is part of the facility, but they're utilizing it for their needs, which is, A, B, C, which one do people like the best? We bring A to market. But you go into those rooms and the level of QA in some of these LPs, I mean, that can be a daunting thing also. So that's another reason why this is such a great play, is that a lot of these multi-layered LPs who have complete QA control are unable to even use their own sensory license the way they want to use it. Right? So it's one thing to go in a lab coat and sit there like a lab rat and puff on some weed, but the level of strictness or criteria that some of these QAs have implemented into their sensory license is kind of asinine where you have to wait 30 minutes between each puff or 20 minutes between each puff. So it's like even with their own internal sensory program, they're really not even able to get the information that they're hoping for.
Well, but how? Okay, so I get a lot of questions now.
Okay, let's go.
See if I can
Bring them on.
Let's see if I can
Let's
fix
go.
them. So, but in that process, knowing Health Canada the way Health Canada is, are you describing the room like? We're going to have white walls versus we're going to have a casino inspired.
No.
So it's really, you're just applying for the license.
That's it. There's nothing in the rules that says you have to have it decorated a certain way or it has to have a certain type of decor. In fact, there's no mention of what the environment looks like other than it should probably be well ventilated.
Right.
Which
it
Checks
pulled my panties off earlier.
it would. You have to be careful to lift you out of your chair. But yeah, there's no ventilation issue. But yeah, we just realized that this whole sterile environment thing, like, no, that's not how you get the feedback you're looking for.
Right. Well, again, like you're trying to mimic the environments. You know, I might not be in a casino or anything like that, but I'm in a chill space.
Well,
I'm typically in a chill space.
The environment kind of, you put your guard down.
Right.
Right. And like I've been in these rooms in a boardroom with a bright light and a QA just watching. And you're not comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. So here we've eliminated all that. Like if you were to look at a side by side of what this room looked like,
I remember it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it looked like
an
an operating room.
Yeah.
Right. Like most facility rooms do. So it's really nice to see the rendering from the early days and to where we are now because it literally looks identical to the rendering. It took us a little longer to get here than we had hoped, but it's done. And you know, it just everyone you bring in here, they get it right away.
Yeah.
And Lit Research has done a great job. They were one of the early ones, and I mean, I've been there multiple times. But you know, if you were to do a side by side comparison, it's just this gives you the opportunity to kind of experience. It's just a way different experience.
And really, we only were able to like confidently go down this path because of groups like Lit Research that were out there already pushing the
Paved the
envelope
way,
of what,
yeah,
100%. So you know, huge credit where credit's due. And I really love what they're doing with this new research project around music.
Okay.
And how cannabis influences how music sounds.
Oh, okay.
So they're just doing some really cool stuff, and I think that. You know, we can laugh about, you know, the seriousness of whether or not cannabis makes music sound better, but until it's published as a scientific,
How do you know?
You don't actually.
Yeah, that's right.
It's speculation. Right.
Anecdotally, I feel.
I know personally.
Yeah, so it's open to debate whether or not this is important research, but like it's research that needs to get done, and I think it's important for industry, and it's important for us to understand the interactions of cannabis on the human body, and that's a noble cause.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
support that.
But outside of that, so what were the biggest challenges outside of trying to get the rendering to look like the okay, yeah, this is what we've got in mind, but like what was the biggest challenge with the room itself?
Streamlining the flow, I think, of everything that has to happen from a regulatory and research protocol perspective into something that you can hold in your hand. So the app that we developed around this room does some very cool stuff. Oftentimes clients will come to us. They will not have participants that they have in mind for these research studies. They just really want to give us a product, and they want feedback on how good that product is in the eyes of consumers.
Okay.
And consumers is usually defined depending on the product. So, pre-roll consumers, people who use vapes every day, new consumers, daily smokers, like there's all sorts of different demographics that can represent that group. So basically, we've developed software to create a database of all these people that are interested in participating in our sensory programs. It automatically informs them when a study goes live that they are eligible for. And so that, when they create their account, they have to go through all of our, protocol stuff, which is, exclusion criteria and waivers and all the different health information that we need to collect.
Oh, I've been through it.
You know exactly what I'm talking
Wes has been
about.
through it. We're compliant, Health Canada, just letting you know.
That's
And
right.
for anyone at home as well, I will overlay what the app kind of looks like for everyone at home as well. So you'll see it here at some point.
I wish we had it on a bigger screen,
Yeah.
but it'll be on our phones. So once that's been completed, that basically gives you a subsection of studies that you'd be eligible to participate in. So, for example, what I don't want to have happen is someone with zero experience of edibles coming in here for an edible sensory trial.
Where did they go? I think they're in the ceiling.
On something that's at the top range of the potency spectrum.
He's been hugging the jukebox for the last 30 minutes. Is he all right?
Rubbing the furry wall.
Right. And we do have some protocols in place just in case for some reason that ever does happen.
Yeah.
But we try to prevent that right from the get-go. So we learn about your cannabis usage habits. We make sure that the studies that you're enrolling in are appropriate, given your cannabis usage history. And then, really you register your interest. We take note of all those attendees. We set up the session. Everybody shows up on the day and the time. And then this is what's going to happen now. So we're going to do
no podcast, but if you talk to us nicely, maybe. But with that, John, because I think where I didn't understand it previously was your sensory room isn't just for your own products that you push through your facility.
No.
So in this case, you could bring, we've got Sheesh here. Sheesh isn't part of a sensory, so don't worry, I'm not going to consume one, but I'm going to open one and smell one because I haven't had my hands on a Tangerine Dream yet. But Sheesh could come to you and say, I need to run a sensory session on my Tangerine Dream in this case. So they can register with you. You've got your pool of participants. Some have marked off, I'm interested in consuming a beverage, and then you would curate that session for them.
Correct.
Now, can they change the criteria at all, or is that kind of set?
No, we can modify it as required. So if there's a specific demographic, I only want to know what people between the age of 19 and 26 think of our drink, because that's the demographic that we're targeting.
Right. Okay.
We could further exclude based on the client requirements.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if this is a requirement from the research standpoint with Health Canada, but do they know? Do the participants know in advance the brand that they're going into?
Yes.
And does
Is that a
affect,
requirement?
So is that a requirement? Because does that affect bias at that point?
It's not. I don't think it's a hard requirement. I mean, I'd have to check the regulations to be sure, but I don't believe it's a hard requirement. I think we can do blind studies, and in certain circumstances where a client wants to, they have 3 different variations of the same product with slightly different inputs. That might be how those studies are conducted. Is you'll come and you'll try 3, you'll give your ratings on all 3 products.
Okay.
One might have really good flower, one might have trimming, one might have a mix of different
That'd be
things.
under the same brand, right? Because where my head's going with this is, we could get really creative and do some blind taste tests on
100%.
stuff.
Yeah, you still could.
Yeah, and we could host blind taste tests of anything under just the JointCraft banner, so to speak. There's anything that's available on the market effectively, we can bring in here and use for a sensory trial.
Interesting.
And the other cool thing is because we're attached to a licensed producer, anyone can just send product over here, and we can move it into the research license and bring it into sensory, so long as it meets the criteria of our research protocol.
Wow. And so I remember when it launched, has there been any, and we'll touch on some, there was some negative comments about it. Well, really only one. And it was, how does gambling or casinos have anything to do with...
Say his name.
No,
well,
don't.
I've said it a million times on our podcast, and we will get him on. Rob, I'm happy to bring you in.
I'd be happy to host. I'd be happy to host.
But, I get where Rob's coming from. I do understand that.
Totally.
But at the same time, it's why does it have to be, to your point, Andrew, a sterile environment where you're not going to have fun? Chances are you're going to have a bad experience with it. And then your feedback is going to be skewed, which is skewing your entire research session.
I think that's where the comment comes from, right? Is you don't know what you don't know. And I've been into multiple research and settings at multiple LPs or license holders, and it does skew the information because it's how do you feel? I feel fucking weird. I feel if you're asking me the truth, I feel fucking weird. You've been standing over me this whole time. Yeah. I don't feel relaxed at all. That's so my feedback is
to relax you. Yeah,
is based on that.
Yeah.
Right. So again, this is just to bring the guard down. And why casino stuff? I mean, we had this shit.
Yeah.
Right. So that we just made use of what we had, and we knew that this would be the backbone of a fun environment, at least from our perspective.
Yeah.
Subjectively, we thought this would be fun as hell.
Well, and reusing stuff, I'm sure keeps the accountant, and we know the accountant, Ben. Hi, Ben. Hi, Ben. Keeps him happy.
Yeah.
Oh, you're finally going to use some of that stuff that you've been buying. Okay, this is great.
I'm not certain the few things that we use really impacted the spend that much, but
well, he hasn't seen our invoice yet for coming today. So.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and so I would say, I'm just going to say brands because it's a multitude of, right? How do they participate in this? Do they just reach out and say,
yeah. Honestly, we've not done a whole lot of marketing with the space. We've posted some Ryan, our VP of marketing, posted some really cool photos that almost looked AI generated, although
They're
it
not.
was a
They're
real
real.
photo.
They're real.
Yeah.
They are real.
They're a real photo, and just from little things like that posted on LinkedIn. I mean, we've got multiple events booked this month already. Our first one being tomorrow, and we've got a tremendous amount of interest from people who want to use it. Because I mean, we're in the GTA. We're not far from downtown. It's centrally located enough that it's pretty easy for anyone who at least lives in the GTA and central Ontario.
Well,
to
even
get
if you
here.
fly into the airport, you're not far from the
Very
airport.
close.
Yeah.
Very close.
Fly in, get flied, and fly out.
yeah.
That's right.
That's exactly it.
That's right.
Right, so it's just super easy. All you got to do is reach out. You can sales at jointcraft.ca, or you can reach out to me at Andrew at jointcraft.ca, and
Very
we'll put you
cool.
in touch with the right people.
And it's
here.
all about white glove service too. So we ask that you tell us about what you want to do, and we want to make that come true.
Right,
so
right.
whether it's a private event or sensory trials or product development initiatives or whatever it is, just let us know, and we probably have some sort of kit that we can give you that'll set you up for success.
I think the product development side is the part that gets me excited, because we've seen a lot of product come to market and we're like, what the fuck were you thinking? Like
A sensory trial would have saved a lot of frustration.
a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of frustration. And seriously, I joke, but it's true. There's a lot of
true.
products that come to market and you're like, what? Why? What? Like,
you can't try the product. How do you launch it?
yeah, it's crazy. So we are technically allowed to participate in a sensory session. Is that correct?
That's
Yes,
correct.
That's correct.
So
Yep,
we've all
of us are
enrolled.
signed up. Yep.
Yeah,
We've all enrolled.
All enrolled.
Walk us through this. I mean,
All
this
right.
will be a little bit, we're strapped in. It's going to be a little bit different, but so we've registered for the session. And then there's only certain product, because I remember it being brought down and saying, this is product for
That's
the
right.
sensory session.
And we've set it aside on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's here. And basically, we've had our facilitator come in and kind of walk us through the high level stuff. And now we're just going to carry the process forward here.
Yeah.
But we'll do it in a compliant way. So basically, the steps that are remaining to remain compliant here are that we're going to open our app and we're going to start our sensory trial. So
Let's see here.
let's go ahead and do that.
It's all right.
I say it a million times. Sorry,
Fix it in
Wes.
post.
So you see right at the top of the page, it says live now.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and click that.
Available studies, live now.
Okay, now so Andrew, you've got three
Yep, we've got 'em all
dupe
right here.
tubes in front
There
of you.
should be one there called Tom.
Yeah,
You're
it's
just
here.
Gonna, you're just going to
Pinnrz
change
purple.
purple to Tom.
Yeah, it's called Purple Tom. So, Tom, I since this is named after you, I will assume that this is the one you would like to try first.
This is the one that Tom, and we're going to keep the THC
Yeah, so-
logos somewhat covered as much as we can.
So
they may
please-
be further away than they're used
Please
to
take
seeing.
one pre-roll from the container.
Okay, so I mark over into purple now. Yes?
Yeah, so if
okay.
you've got the purple, then you press purple.
Okay, that's what I got.
I'm going to try the blue, so I will press blue.
I'm gonna try the yellow, so I'll press yellow.
So then in this case, am I like, can I share with people what I'm seeing on the screen?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure, go ahead,
absolutely.
of course.
So-
Now at any point during this, I would say just before you light it, just take a good look at the appearance of the joint. One thing I love pointing out about Pinnrz is the pack. The way you tell a loose pack on a joint is you just roll it between your fingers, and you'll hear the loose paper crinkle, right? And if we roll this in front, virtually no crackling.
This is a sensitive mic, folks. Like,
Yeah, these are super. But to his point, I don't know if I have. I probably have some in my man purse. But I went through a really bad experience just recently with a company, and I reached out to him. I said, hey, you might want to reconsider the products you're putting into market, because I had the worst experience. I went through 3 pre-rolls before I could even get a haul off of it.
That's not good.
And so in this case, they're like taking my feedback, and I don't know if it's because of me, and I'm not blowing smoke up my ass. Again, I'm not a celebrity. I'm not endorsing any products on this.
Humble.
But at the same time, it's, guys, get your act together. Like this is no good.
But this is what highlights what I said earlier.
Well, this is
right?
that handcrafted. So I can vouch that JointCraft has no automation. No automation.
No,
And I
automation
have
isn't fast
seen-
enough.
Yeah, I've seen.
our filling equipment has no electricity.
I've seen the we call this a Dutch crown.
That's right.
My favorite.
Dutch fold, Dutch crown.
okay.
This is a
Why
triangle.
is it called a Dutch fold?
I
Or a
have
Dutch
no-
crown?
Well, so the crown, I don't know. There's a lot of debate about this, but the crown is the ridge that
Yeah,
goes around the
it's a
outside.
crown because you see that ridge.
Yeah.
Like if you see
So
the
the
three
Dutch-
fat
the Dutch
flaps
must
that
wear
are
a
fold.
crown?
Yes, of course, obviously.
Okay.
Obviously.
Like that.
But the fold, you can usually see there's like a flap that's sticking
Yeah.
up, whereas this has been pushed down. To
I've
give it that
watched them.
ridge.
I've watched them,
I've
yeah.
watched them make these.
Yeah, it's pretty slick.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
There's just no
beautiful.
way.
They're
Anyways,
beautiful.
so yeah, no, it's very well crafted.
So as the trial goes, I mean, the guidelines say basically, a few puffs off the joint to evaluate. Europe. I will let you
There's one.
exercise your own. The idea that the intention behind that is so that you're not getting super impaired, right? These are also very small joints, so I'll let you use your personal discretion on how much of it you need to consume, and we'll smoke one joint from each container, so you get to try yellow.
Do you want to break down really quickly again
purple.
each of the varieties that you're
yeah,
maybe
so
the terps,
Andrew,
maybe
you
the
can
whatever.
describe the one you've got. You've got a blue.
The blue is my favorite. Blue Andrew, we'll call it, I suppose.
Blue Andrew.
We got
Blue
Blue
Andrew.
We're
Tom.
renaming them all.
That was what he was known in high school for the giant flames.
I had a lot of other weirder names than that, but this one's a gas face genetic. It's like 28.5% THC. Very, very pungent aroma and flavor. By far my favorite. The yellow is delicious as well, but this just has that flavor note that I really, really love. So yeah, gas face, absolutely delicious.
Yeah, and like you had said before, John, so the purple is a balanced in this case, and typically ranging a little closer to 2 to 1.
That's right.
So two on the THC side, 1 on the CBD side. For those that don't necessarily know that, but most of our audience know way more about cannabis than I do. Despite the fact that I've been, consuming cannabis 30 plus years, grew it.
It's okay.
I don't MMAR.
I've just resigned myself to the fact everybody knows more about cannabis than I do.
Everybody knows more about everything than I do. So
That's right. That's okay.
And once you realize that, you live a much more humble life.
I'm happier this way.
Like, I just love that. Yeah, I've always loved the smell of those ones. Yeah. And then you've got, where's your yellow?
I've got the yellows here. So to give you the quick descriptors, the yellow is a frosted fruitcake. It is a sativa. It is 26% THC, almost bordering on 27. We've got 10.35 pre-rolls inside the custom tube for Pinnrz. And yeah, this really focuses on fruity, citrusy flavor profiles.
Notice that. This is a custom size tube, isn't it?
It is, yep.
It is.
We 3D printed a model to make sure that it was the right size, and then we 3D printed another one to make some adjustments, and then we did it again, and then we got the right one. We didn't 3D print these commercially.
No.
Yeah.
No.
We
I
had
need
our friend
another
Kevin make
400.
them for us. Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of a
Just
nightmare.
one other
but
thing. You guys are, mining Bitcoin and doing all this other stuff too at the same time.
What else are you going to do all of the spare electricity in this building?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I didn't realize that because one of the things that drive me insane in certain cases is it's like, what size? Well, you work this, right? What size of container do you have? You got a tube? Yeah, we got a tube. Okay, I'm just going to put 1 half gram blunt in it.
Yeah, shake it, Tom. Like you
Yeah,
can see
like it's-
minimal
yeah.
movement for its size.
Well, a lot of the times people are just buying what's available, and if they've got a 1-pack, a 3-pack, a 7-pack, you'll see people buy the same tube so that they're not managing inventory across a bunch of different things. Right. So with the large
Like, I
pack
get
size,
it.
fantastic. But then when you get to the single, the 2-pack, I mean, it can get a little bit gappy. You'll even see some people will put like, it's not this, but like a packing peanut or something
block
in
or
there
something
just
to-
to
Oh,
space
yeah,
out
yeah,
the gap.
Yeah.
And you guys, let's see. So you get 10. I feel for the people that got to get them in here because I can't even get one back in. That's how perfectly fit
He hasn't
they
even
are.
smoked yet.
it's a technique.
Yeah, exactly.
Get him 3 Pinnrz in and see how he does. Send him out to the line.
All right.
Yeah, don't
So
light the
dry
wrong
haul-
end.
Merry Christmas,
I'm
folks.
not right now.
Dry haul, very pleasant. I will have to say the overall appearance on this sliding scale
Oh yeah, so I can do a sliding scale here.
is quite
Overall
nice,
appearance.
I will say.
Gorgeous.
Biased, however.
Dry
But
haul
quite
taste.
nice.
Let's see here.
The dry haul taste is delicious.
What's that?
Texture. I'm not sure what we would define as texture on a pre-roll. I assume that's probably just
Was
one
that
of
our
those
crinkle
things.
test? Maybe that was our crinkle test.
Maybe our crinkle test. In which case, that was
It
a hard
passed.
pass. Yeah.
taste is
Aroma,
delicious.
aftertaste I'll get to in a second.
Yep.
Smoothness I'll get to in a session.
And irritation.
Okay, I think
Irritation.
we're ready for liftoff, gentlemen.
All right. Can I borrow your lighter, Tom? Thank you.
You can borrow your own lighter.
It says JointCraft on it. It must be mine.
BT dubs, I still have an entire flat of ample organic Bics.
Yeah, you do.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
I would love
I'll sell
to
you
get
one
my-
for $100.
Okay.
Tell you what,
You know what I have? I still have the Ample Organics
you need a lighter?
Bic with the original logo.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Or the OG logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we'll trade you for some CanTrust stuff.
I've got a grinder in my car.
Do we still have any of the purple ample teas? Those purple teas used to be fucking awesome.
They're great.
Those
I
were
still wear
reserved
them.
for staff.
Yeah, those
Yeah,
are
those
amazing.
Those were the staff
I have a
ones.
drawer full of them. I still wear them. Like if I'm out working in the
I
backyard
remember
in
having
the summertime.
I remember having to, when I shut down the office, I had to go in. So under the Akerna, we'll touch on that as well, maybe at the last segment portion, but understanding what all that took, very little understand that, right? Because it was a midnight move under Akerna. We're not going to pay rent anymore. We're going to do all this. And I'm like, oh, okay, this doesn't really work for me, but do what I need. So I get everything moved into a storage locker and the marketing assets, like all the boxes of pink and, what was the other shirt? It was, do we have teal
pink
ones?
There was a
No, we had
pink one.
black.
There was a black one, and I
Black.
believe there was a white one, but the white one was pretty scarce.
Yeah.
Those were the early day ones.
Yeah, early day
Those were
ones.
like early day first grow up. ones.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
it said
Yeah.
Track and
Track and
trace and
trade,
yeah. Dan designed those.
That's
Did
right.
we
I
have?
remember
I don't remember sweaters. Did we have?
Yeah, we had the
they
really
zips?
nice zip up
Yeah.
one. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, that was a super nice
Yeah.
sweater. I still have it.
And then we talked
ample
to
nerds.
Yeah.
ample nerds. We talked to Max Walters the other day, and he's still got all the headshots that he took from.
I love
No
it.
way.
From those ones?
I actually still have
So that's where we got on OnlyFans.
AI, man. AI works.
Hey Max, if
I've
you're
got a thumb
watching, I
drive
want to have a conversation
everyone's-
with you.
Yeah.
I need a cut of that.
Please pay me some commission, brother. So initial
This
thoughts?
is beautiful.
You like it?
Yeah. I'm a balanced guy. Like the balance. I'm not going to get too lit here on this holiday special, but it's a holiday special. Did I say I'm staying over tonight? I can't remember.
You're
Maybe
more
I'm
than
staying
welcome
over
to.
tonight. Yeah.
We got nice
We
concrete
got about
floors.
6 hours of
Perfectly
well
enameled
insulated.
floors.
Yeah, it's well insulated. We got ventilation.
Yeah, it
Can we-
stinks like
it's up and
weed
up on-
everywhere.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, very comfortable.
Just like home.
That's right.
That's nice, but I'm not going to smoke the whole thing right now. Do I get to save it? Is that part of my? Am I allowed?
No.
No.
Okay,
No,
so that part's
we're
garbage.
gonna collect that. We're gonna weigh it, and we are going to destroy it.
All right,
At
so
the
then it
end
can
of the
stay there.
session. That is correct.
But it is nice.
Okay,
And so
blue.
that data goes into the app, right? Once you've weighed whatever was left. So okay, interesting.
Well, it doesn't actually go in the app. We just use that for inventory
Got it,
tracking.
got it,
And
okay.
I'm being facetious. We probably won't actually weigh it.
Yeah.
We'll probably just take the units and
And do
destroy
the
them.
destruction.
Like the you remember the root ball mass weighing.
That's right. It's crazy. It's like, what am I supposed to do with this? Now that you've taken a joint out of this tube, what am I going to do with this? I mean, realistically, I could just go store it in the vault for the next 5 years, and maybe if
Or
I
you have to
ever-
destroy it.
or I have to just basically throw 9 joints in the garbage.
Yeah. You might want to
And
keep test
well,
the same tube every
And
time.
technically, Tom, the silliest thing is I can't just, even though it's excise paid and everything, like I can't just give it to you to
No.
leave with,
No,
No.
right?
Wow.
So
Rules are the rules,
the
boys.
rules are the rules.
follow them.
Rules are the rules.
Aftertaste.
So
like
what's
it.
with the participants that are in here then while this is all happening, what's the general vibe with like engagement and communication? Are you encouraging them to communicate with each other, or is it mostly focused with you guys, stirring up that conversation, or what's
No,
encouraged?
with each other. It's
Yeah,
really
with each
free
other.
form. Yeah, engage with the environment, engage with each other, and really kind of create a social atmosphere. I mean, I maybe I'm wrong, but I enjoy consuming weed with friends.
Right.
I've got a neighbor down the street. He's got a little man cave in the basement. We go down there and we're watching football and smoking joints, and that's like, I probably do that 2-3 times.
He was
a week.
watching football. You were smoking joints.
Yeah, we're both smoking joints and watching a little bit of football.
Just so happens there's football on.
I'm
just so
scrolling.
happens,
I'm
yeah.
scrolling Twitter. But
I'm trolling Elon Musk.
that's right. But no, I think that that social aspect is something that people enjoy when they're consuming cannabis, and we want to promote that here. So really, the more engagement with one another and social environment, meet people and
Yeah.
come have fun. you
Yeah,
know?
no, that makes sense. It makes sense. I still question, the validity in some, because this isn't, not all provinces have allowance for sensory rooms. Is that right? Or do they?
I'm not sure.
No, it's under the federal regime,
Yeah.
so it is a federal license,
Okay.
issued by Health Canada. So any actually, and even you don't even have to be a licensed producer to apply for one, as evidenced by Lit.
Okay.
Right,
Right.
Lit has
Yeah, that makes sense.
a retail store on one unit, and then beside it is the research unit, and so you've got a retail store authorization and a non-therapeutic research license. I think they're separate addresses.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't. You don't have to have a cannabis license to have a non-therapeutic research license to conduct research with cannabis. But the disadvantage is that you, under a research license, you're limited to 1 kilogram of product on site. So it's can be difficult to facilitate.
Wait, on product that you have to test or on
period.
period?
Yeah, 'cause
You
you don't
guys
have
more than 1 kilogram of
Oh,
product.
yeah.
Oh yeah, we have hundreds, but that's under our full license producer.
Oh, I see.
license.
Okay, so if only sensory. Okay, got it.
So if you wanted to
Under-
be running research every single day of the week, you'd have a tough time doing that.
It's
with
hard.
having the 1 kilogram limit.
Right, because what ends up happening is the companies are shipping you product for trials, and you're
Right.
having to make room by shipping other samples that you have left over back, and like you're always
Right.
juggling inventory,
Just inventory
just to keep
management,
that. Whereas here, we can bring it in under our licensed producer license,
Store it
in
there,
whatever
right.
quantity, move a small portion into the research license, use it,
Yeah.
take it out, destroy it, or whatever we do, and we still have our 1 kilogram free
Yeah.
at all times.
Wild. I was just thinking, so you must know Keith Bayo, right? From Aveo.
I
So
don't- I
Aveo
don't.
Vapes, very kind to sponsor this episode. But I was just thinking, like in this case, like how else do you legally under Health Canada trial their vape hardware, right? So they make the cartridges. To me, we had Jonathan Carfield, who was the founder, who went through a shit show trying to get to where Aveo is today. He had these issues with AVD, and he was sued and all this shit. But anyways, they've got some of the best, I think, if not the best, vape technology. It doesn't clog, right? There's no issues on the draw, but also in the sustainable side. So what's interesting about this is the vast majority, this stuff, plastics 80 to 100 years, right, before they'll break down. So as Jonathan was thinking through, how do I come up with, I'm sustainable, I care about the environment, everyone's future is part of this planet. And so he's looking at different sustainable type plastics and couldn't find anything. So what's he do? He invents one. So he uses enzymes out of the US. He's got hemp derived, and he brings us together 3.5 years fully biodegradable. Like,
That's very cool.
Fully, right? But I'm looking at this now going, because that's a hard sell-off, right? Numbers speak, obviously, right? So I'm considering getting a new vape cart. They probably can beat most manufacturers' prices, but regardless, it's sustainable and it's just a better product. But at the same time, I'm thinking, I'd need to test this. Like, I need to, how do I get a product in now?
Pretty
right?
hard.
You,
I mean, if you don't have
legally,
access,
like,
yeah,
I mean,
of course.
fully regulated under the way that they would do it, because they would have to what? Like, without something like this, they would have to go and purchase a competitor, but under the Aveo. So I mean, let's say Pinnrz had a vape, and I want to tell you or show you how good my technology works, right? My vape technology. I'd have to go buy a competitor product to get you to try it in order to see how well it works. Like, how else would I be able to do it?
Like you could have your vape cart filled at a license holder. Like even here, we could fill your vape cart technology, but you would have to technically have access to a license like this.
Right.
So yes, in this instance,
We
it's
still need to
connected.
lab test it.
But yes,
so
it
I
would
can't
still have
just
to
be like
tested.
formulating in the
Yeah.
lab. We know what the potency is going to be. Like we know what that we
Sure.
input COAs on the distillate. We know what our dilutions are.
Yeah,
So we kind of know what the finalized potency of whatever we're putting
Right.
in a cartridge would be. We still have to go get that tested, confirmed, and make sure there's no microbial or heavy metals or all that other stuff before we can even use it in this license.
Yeah.
So from a product development perspective, it's handy, but it still doesn't eliminate the lab testing overhead that's
Right,
required
right.
to get samples released.
But yeah,
for
legally
consumption.
you couldn't try your product without having access to a sensory license.
Yeah. And we know what goes on behind the scenes in other companies.
I mean, there's a lot of
We're not-
stuff.
there's a couple things that go on, like, all of a sudden there's no weed left, but the black market's flooded. Where did it all go?
I mean, there's not a ton of sensory licenses. There are more and more because people are seeing the value of it. But for the longest time, there really wasn't that many. But yet, stuff was still getting tried. So.
Right. But so no municipal challenges getting your license for that.
No, I don't think it's within their jurisdiction
Okay.
because it's like within our facility. It's not exposed to the public. Or
Yeah.
you can't see it on the street when you're driving
Right,
by.
right,
like it's very much an intra-industry thing.
Beetlejuice, big signs pointing at sensory room, sensory room.
No, if I got my farm gate, it would be like cannabis factory, outlet, discount, weed
Discount
store,
weed. That
would be
stop
cool.
here. You know?
We're pushing for that.
We'll bend the rules as much as we can.
That's right.
All right. So I need to ask this just for, I've said this a million times. You and I met through Ample. You've almost come full circle because I know the closer story. But so we meet 2017, I think it was, but Ample was technically born, what, late 2014, 15?
August of 2014.
2014. Okay. So tell the story in brevity if you can.
Oh boy. Okay. So, wow, where to start? I was working in medical devices. I hated my job. I met a girl on the internet. I came to Toronto. I shacked up with this girl and quit my job. And girls love that. By the way,
all of them.
Yeah, if you really want to win their hearts,
Yeah.
just freeload on their couch. My God, Amy's a saint. So yeah, I got about 2 days on the couch before she booted me out to go work with her brother. And while I was working with her brother, a gentleman came in and said, "Hey, the Canadian government is going to legalize medical marijuana for commercial reasons, and you're going to be able to sell medical marijuana to people." And we all kind of laughed and didn't really think that was going to happen. Remember, Stephen Harper was the prime minister at that point in time, right?
Yeah.
So this is all pre-Trudeau. But we filled out an application. I helped and I worked with Amy's brother, Jeff, on that, and ultimately got approved, and it became the Peace Naturals Project, which we now know today as the Kronos Group and Spinach and all of those things. Jeff is still there today. In 2000, so I was vice president of technology at Peace Naturals in 2014. I was helping with a variety of things around the business, from record keeping to security to internet connections and network connectivity to new buildings that were going up, and all the different things that were happening around the Peace Naturals campus. And part of it was reworking a piece of software that they had developed internally to help with record keeping, and more importantly, the e-commerce component that was tied to medical sales. So I grabbed my buddy Evan, who I worked with at Channel Zero, been in the broadcasting days there for a little bit, and brought him in, and we started working on this project. There was a big dispute between the founder of Peace and I about the software, because he felt like it should be his. I felt like it was supposed to be a joint venture between us and Peace Naturals, and it was all this big convoluted mess. And ultimately, we decided to part ways. I left with the software, and Peace Naturals kind of went on its own way. I've never been an employee of Peace Naturals since. Yeah. And that turned into Ample Organics. So basically, Evan and I started in my house at the dining room table and coding away, and we turned that into a very basic demonstrator of software. Right. George Dickinson from Grow House,
Georgie boy,
God bless his soul.
Max Yield.
Yeah, I love that man. Just one of the pure, incredible people that is in the space. I have just nothing but good things to say about him.
Love George.
He took me on a road trip to Leamington to go meet with Afria. And I can get into the long story of it, but it was like the worst weather. Like it
gets so shitty over there.
So treacherous.
It is brutal.
By the time we got there, we were so late. And the Afria team was receptive, and they were friendly, and they brought in lunch. They catered in this Italian lunch for us, and we showed them the software, and the meeting went really well. And ultimately that became Ample Organics, first client. And then it was just the dominoes started to fall after that. We signed Whistler Medical Marijuana. We signed Aurora, and we signed Canna Farms. And then, all these applicants were signing support packages to file in their applications. And that's really what became Ample Organics. And we stayed focused to what our customers needed. And really, the start of that was that e-commerce fulfillment for patients. And that expanded, obviously, with legalization and everything else into what Ample Organics is today.
Yeah. It's crazy that the medical portal and the medical side of that platform has standed the test of time, right? So we go through 2017 I joined. I think there was, less than 20 clients at the time. Clients or customers? We used to argue about this. Clients or customers?
I always called them clients.
Yeah. So did I. That's just the way I was. What the fuck was I saying?
I don't know.
2017. You
Oh, 2017, right?
Yeah.
So
It's working.
yeah,
It's
it's
working.
working.
It's working.
Fill out your survey right
yeah,
now.
please close your survey
Yeah.
before we get too far down the road.
Forgets what he was talking about. But well, hold on, because I want to insert Black Rose. It was Black Rose Organics, wasn't it? Wasn't that the original name? What was Black? Because there used to be something pop up all the time on the emails, something in the back end. What was, you had an idea that you wanted to have a grow first, did you not?
Yeah, so that was also called Ample Organics, but there was Black Swan Industries, and there was a couple other Black Mountain something, or I don't know. There was some other weird holding company names and things like that we came up with. But when we first visualized Ample Organics before I actually joined Peace, we looked at it as though we were going to start a facility, and we found a 100,000 square foot building in Etobicoke. On Carrier Drive. I can't believe I remember that. It was a former federal archives facility. So it was actually a really cool building because it had these big armored doors that would open up, and you could drive like a 53-foot semi right inside the building, and then it would close. And so like you wouldn't know what was coming on and off the trucks. Like it was pretty cool.
We unloading weed.
And yeah, we went down the line, and just like the capital requirements and the number of applications that were going into the queue at that point in time. And
There was a lot.
oh, there was coming up on 1,000 applications or something, and the waiting periods, and like it just seemed like it was maybe not the way to go. Maybe there was some way to support these people, and help them,
Right.
and that's kind of what sparked it all.
Well, and that's what I was going to say was how the medical side, so the medical side of the platform and the portal has stood the test of time with very little updating.
It has.
And there is nothing in market. I mean, throw this in as a promo of, it's Ample. You're welcome, Andrew.
That's right. Hi, Andrew.
But I mean, honestly, so, because we go through the rise, right? Onboarding clients, and these were fucking crazy days. We had a relationship with CCI.
Yeah, no, I remember actively. I was the partner channel manager at CCI, so I was dealing with all of our, recommended partners.
Right.
None of these people knew where to go to get stuff.
No, so we go through this huge rise of customers. I remember when I joined, we're like, how the fuck do we figure out training? You build me this beautiful training room. And I think the one thing, Wes has said this a million times, is Ample excelled because everyone from our CSRs to the CEO knew what it took to take cannabis from literally seed to sale. Like we spent we went to 137 employees in 6 months.
Crazy.
It was reflected in our onboarding process. We had a stellar onboarding process for clients. Like, it was one of the first companies I worked with because I was doing support at that time, and support for a software like that can be atrocious. It really can be.
It's enterprise software. People
it's
depend
enterprise
on.
SaaS software that if it goes down, and we had those moments where things went down and we got those calls. But what I'm saying is the questions we used to get from new customers when things were handed over to support were your basic stuff. We were not getting. We had a phenomenal onboarding process. That's what I'm really.
But some of the better questions were, can I do this?
Yeah, that was
they were coming to us. Do I really have to weigh the root masses? Do I have to do this?
Well, it was always interesting seeing all these different clients' different perspectives on the regs, right? Their interpretations.
Yeah.
And they're going, no, we interpret it this way, so we're going to use the software this way. And then you have completely two different spectrums, right? It was insane.
Yeah, but we would go the extra mile. We'd make sure, and if we didn't know, we'd research it, or we would call Trina or call someone to make sure that they are supported. But we go through a lot of that development. I mean, credit to Shoppers Drug Mart as well.
Of course, Many thanks to them.
Yeah, and they had some requirements. We had to make sure that the software was robust enough. Meant to connect with Ken 2 weeks ago. I have to call him. I forgot. Anyways, Ken Weisborough, obviously, incredible individual. But that was, I think, the differentiator was, one, everyone knew cannabis. They knew what the operator was going through. But two was the medical portal was built in such a way. People have tried. You remember we fired the fuck out of Shopify. They promised us the world. They come in, oh yeah, we can do this, we can do this. Yeah, oh yeah, adjudication? No, no problem. We can do all this stuff. And then months and months and months go by. Nothing fucking happens with it. I'm like, we're done with you guys.
Oh,
We're
it
just
really,
done.
honestly, like that whole experience really tarnished my view of what Shopify was as a company.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it gets so much great press about how it's a great place to work and all of these things. But it was just they just didn't seem to be able to get it to go where we needed it to go.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, Shopify was started as an e-commerce platform. It was designed to, if you wanted to buy 10,000 cans of Cokes on the internet, it's designed to facilitate that. You put 10,000 cans in your cart and off you go. But when you have to start restricting what people could buy,
Yeah.
and ensuring that they have that back end patient reporting piece.
Equivalency, they would never hit. They couldn't do it.
All of that stuff. It just became so hard.
It was brutal.
We created this best of breed tool that, I mean, it's still used widely today.
Yeah.
I think it's the one thing that's kept Ample Organics in market.
Advanced Care tried. They almost got there, but it was everything was integrations, right? Integrations. And, at some point in time, you feel for it. You feel for it now, which is, it's death by 1,000 cuts. You got to pay this vendor and this vendor and this vendor and this vendor. And it just doesn't stop. And when that's your technology, I mean, that starts to piss you off. But I want to ask this. So we go through all of this, get to the point, find this suitor. Akerna loves Ample, wants to buy Ample. And then acquisition happens and you're like, it's not right. Something doesn't feel right. And then a letter comes out.
I remember that letter.
The letter may still be. Is it still on the internet?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. JohnPrentice.ca/Ample.
What was the kind of the writing on the wall? And obviously, we're not going to blaspheme anyone. It's not about that. But this is the trials and tribulations of leading to where you are.
It's a vivid day in my head.
Oh my God, it was all bullshit, Tom. And I think, I would listen to the executive team of Akerna talk, and like, I wanted to believe them, but my ability to suspend my disbelief wore off when because actions speak louder than words.
Right.
Yeah. It was a lot of talk, but then no action. And so I started to question intentions, and I started to question kind of what the longer term plan was. I recognized that I was going to be used as a scapegoat to explain, missed targets or whatever at some future date and time.
Right. That ended up being me, by the way.
Glad I got out of there early.
Well done, John.
Dodge the bullet.
Yeah. Well done.
Well, and I knew that if I was going to make a decision, a lot of people had bet on me.
Yeah.
A lot of people had put trust in me and Ample Organics and all of these things, and I wasn't going to fucking disappoint them. So I had to swing first, and I had to control the narrative about why I was leaving before Akerna had the opportunity to control the narrative about why I was leaving, which is why I did what I did, because I wanted to signal to the industry that I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not exiting and leaving. And if I had it my way, I would still be there servicing you today. But unfortunately, there was a lot of reasons for the sale and the transaction and all of the things. It's a very complicated fucking thing, but
Peter had dark hair.
That's right. We all had darker hair, but it was just wild, and I think it was such a disappointment to leave, and then just see the thing stagnate over and I know. Not in spite of like efforts from people who were in the organization, like Gina and all those people working hard every day to try to keep those clients happy. It was because management wasn't going to invest in it or whatever the case would be, and that was a little heartbreaking to kind of watch.
That must be the most sad part of that entire story is that we still had roadmaps to execute on because we went through our pains too, right? I mean, all of a sudden Cannabis 2.0 comes. And we're reporting on 350, 380 columns of data, and 2.0 comes and goes, fuck you, here's 3,000. We want 3,000 columns of data. And you can't push those costs onto your customers. There's no way.
No, we internalize that.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars of research through product development and then the actual development itself. But what kind of came to pass was, this letter, and obviously you and I were very close. We kind of knew what was going on. Well, I knew what was going on. And then this comes out and everyone's like, oh my God. And obviously I'm still on. I'm tight-lipped because we're close and I know what's going on and I know your reasoning. But then it comes full circle to what you had said. Did you take a moment at that time though and go, like, must have felt...
No.
See, I told you.
I felt horrible because that's not. I was hoping that if anything, that letter would have served as a warning to the people who were governing that company, like the board of directors and some of the others.
They didn't care.
No, they launched a bullshit investigation. Didn't actually look into anything. Quite frankly, like they should all go to jail, in my opinion. They burned a lot of investors' money. But this is the way public markets work, and I mean, how many people were victims of it with cannabis stocks? I mean, to be fair, it was a good transaction for me personally, and it enabled me to kind of do this. But the learnings from that have colored what I do here.
Yeah,
very much.
You went
so.
to school.
It was a very expensive education.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, you know, regardless, I mean, it was a lot of long hour days. Like people think, oh, you know, you built the company, you sold it, this multimillionaire running around, and it's not the case. If you account for all that time and energy and stress, the years technically lost from your life from that, it's still not worth it in some cases, right?
No, my mom was dying of cancer
Yeah.
at our house in Wasaga, at my family's cottage in Wasaga Beach, and I had to stay home because I had to be on BNN.
Right.
So like that sucked,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
you know, just like to be not be as present as I wanted to be for that entire thing.
Yeah.
It was tough.
Oh man, couldn't imagine. And then, so one of the things I wanted to ask you, so were you working with Elkin?
Yeah, I was. So Elkin and I kind of have a very similar story. We were both doing security.
Yeah.
He did canopy.
His story is
I
fucking
I did
hilarious.
Organigram.
Yeah.
So he was living in Montreal. I moved to Toronto in 2014. Elkin and I met in 2015.
Oh, okay.
So whatever, we had an opportunity to potentially work together on a project.
Yeah.
Both the companies we were working for at that time. So yeah, I met Elkin in 2015.
Okay.
So then fast forward to probably sometime in 2016, I'm still working for a security operator, and I've run into Elkin at a cannabis trade show. I think it might have been like an early
Elkin had a cannabis trade show.
I know.
What a guest.
I know he's suffering from jet lag from one right now. But I met him at one, and he was with CCI, so he was one of the early employees at
His
Cannabis
story,
Compliance.
man. Like, and the reason I was asking and cut over to it is I want to understand when that, like, because it made sense. You had to partner in the industry, right? Like, and CCI was a big partner, and I remember blueprints coming through, and I keep saying, why the fuck are we reviewing the blueprints? Just tell them what they need. We'll just send it to them, right? But his story of showing up at Tweed, that building, that was a Hershey building.
The Hershey
I think
factory.
He camped out.
Yeah.
And you know, you got Chuck and everyone inside. He's fucking back again.
Yeah, they're watching
He's
him on the
back
security
again,
cameras.
watching
They're
him
like,
on the
"This is-"
CCTV.
Yeah, that's Elkin.
I couldn't imagine, man. And who would have known? Like the industry goes from, it feels like 0 to 100 overnight, right? Because I still remember, like in the early 2017, I see you on BNN, and at the time I had my MMAR. I'm not thinking ACMPR, Cannabis Act, Cannabis 2.0. No one's thinking that. And then, you know, the drama school teacher comes along and he wants cannabis. Would you, like, I mean, admittedly, I voted for him because of that. That was the whole
I think
reason,
a lot of
right?
people did.
Right?
I voted for him because of that, and I didn't vote for him twice.
No, I did not. No. And we've got a lot of issues. We got a lot of issues, Mr. Trudeau. But yeah, so where did it, like in those early days of startups, right? Relationships are everything. How did you meet with, because it would have been Brian at the time? Was it at CCI? Where did that come about, the relationship between Ample and CCI?
Yeah, I had this. Well, there was a lot of consultants.
There
was a few.
Yeah.
There was a lot of consultants, and CCI was the most flagrant about wanting to get paid for every referral that they sent to Ample Organics. And
I pay me now or you pay me later.
yeah, I don't know. My first interaction with Brian was a weird one because one of his staff had. I don't know if you remember this, but like one of his staff had gone to Shoppers Drug Mart when we were first in the process of implementation of the Ample Organic system with Shoppers.
Yeah.
CCI was advising on the Shoppers licensing process as well.
Yeah.
And one of the consultants from CCI came into the Shoppers Drug Mart and did a training on Ample Organics without us being involved. And
What? I don't remember this.
You don't remember this?
No.
Oh my
Just
God.
for the record, I had nothing to do with that.
No. But my first, that was the first time I think I'd ever spoken to Brian on the phone. I was livid.
But we had already won the business and they were demoing it, or
Yeah, so I guess like we'd won the contract. We
Yeah.
were in the process of getting ready for implementation. This was kind of all like the lead up to.
yeah. Oh, and it was a lead up. Holy shit.
Was it ever? And we had heard that a CCI consultant had gone in and had done a training on
So
the
they
software.
were trying to sell it into shoppers
I'm
as
not
a,
sure
as a
what
solution.
I don't
Because
know what the goal
you
was.
prefaced it with,
We would've-
CCI like to get paid.
CCI like to get paid, but I mean, we had kind
A couple
of
really good years.
yeah, we'd done that on our own. But yeah, it was just one of those weird situations. So it led to this very contentious phone call with Brian, and that's how I met Brian.
Yeah.
I think we're good now, but it certainly was an awkward start, and I think quite a few awkward phone calls after that before we started to get comfortable with one another again. But it was a bit of an adventure.
Crazy.
But it was wild times. Every cowboy out there helping someone get a license was looking for a Section 11 document to help with the record keeping support.
Section 11, my favorite section.
Yeah,
Really? All right. Well, listen, I don't know how far we're into this. This is our holiday episode. For those that have stuck around, we love you. We couldn't do this without you. But what I'd like to have you guys share are your best moments, if you could. It's probably hard to pick one, of the entire time you've been in the industry. Whoever wants to go first.
Oh boy, best moments. There's
a
There's
lot.
been some really, really wild ones.
You
Can I give you like top three quickly?
can give me top three.
Okay.
Sure.
Number one, being on the Investment Roadshow for Ample Organics. Peter and I flew into San Francisco
Yeah.
through some mistake or someone watching over us. Somehow we got put in the Royal Suite at the Fairmont.
Oh, I fucking remember
in
that,
San
you
Francisco.
bastards.
It's like a
I
16,000 square foot hotel room.
When you guys sent the photos back, Ben was fucking livid. He thought you paid for it.
Oh God, no! I don't think we could have afforded it. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a top three for sure.
Yeah.
When we did the deal with UPS.
Oh, yeah,
at
yeah,
Ample
yeah,
Organics,
yeah.
and they
Yeah.
took Peter and I to Formula One, and
Formula
we got to
One.
go to
Ah,
the
you
Paddock
bastards.
Club
Yeah.
and sit right above pit
Two
lane.
bastards. Guys, you get to call them bastards
Yeah,
twice, right?
twice.
Wes? Yeah.
Oh, that was awesome. And the third one that was really cool is we had a client that wanted us to come out and see the facility. So they flew us to Montreal.
Montreal, yeah.
Took us by helicopter
Yeah.
from Montreal Airport to
It was a remote place.
Louisville,
Yeah.
Quebec.
Yeah.
And we landed in Louisville, and we landed into this cornfield, and I'll never forget it because they had just finished chopping the corn, and all of these like husks went flying up into the air as we're coming down into the cornfield, and there's like Mercedes SUVs waiting for us. It was like
fucking high rollers.
Dude,
It's the good old days,
And
man.
we're gonna go start my car with
That's
the
the
fucking
good old
wind-up
days.
crank
No,
on the
and-
front.
and-
Good old days.
Tom, honestly, the reason those are my top three memories is they'll never happen again. We're never going to see that kind of money flooding
but-
into the cannabis
so
industry.
Did they become a client? No.
Yes, they did.
Who was that?
The company was called IsoCan Med.
Oh, I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, and now they are they are part of MTL.
Okay. All right. Andrew, you can have three.
I mean, certainly not as lavish as that.
No yachts?
Mine are pretty simple. One of them I called out already, which was that moment that I realized I was going to get a chance to help take part in getting a cannabis facility license, because I knew at that point everything changed.
Yeah.
So that's one of them. The second one was actually buying my own product at a retail store.
It's a pretty
That's
cool
cool.
feeling. Yeah.
What's that
meant a
feel
lot.
like?
It's I don't know. It's hard to explain because, like, you know, it's one thing to buy it for yourself and be like, oh, wow, this is the thing that we made or that we built. But, you know, I guess even to coattail on that, it was when I would start to meet people who had tried my product.
I was just going to
the
ask.
way
if
more
you saw
impactful.
someone with
Way
your
more
product?
impactful. Not necessarily saw someone, but
Because that would feel awesome.
the first time I went into a retail store with with our merch on,
Yeah.
and the way that the retail the bud tenders reacted, it kind of threw me off.
Yeah.
Right. Because here's this thing that we've kind of been working on in the shadows for so long, and you kind of lose sight of, you know, how are people going to react?
Right.
Right. And then
Right.
when you finally start to see some reaction that, you know, supports how you felt in the dark with
Yeah.
your friends, like that was super impactful.
That's
very
pretty
meaningful.
wild. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. And then the one of them, a little more lavish, perhaps, going to MJ
Is it when you got
Biz.
paid? Sorry, was it when you got paid for demoing the?
for demoing CC.
Demoing
Again, for the record, that wasn't me.
The commission
That
checks
wasn't
Ample
me.
used to sign for Andrew. They were huge.
No, none of that is true.
You see that big shiny truck? out
However,
front?
those days were a bit of a heyday if you were in the right place, especially as a service provider. So we did well at that time.
Yeah.
Was going to MJ Biz after a very successful quarter, and knowing what I had upcoming. So when I got to Vegas, I don't know if it was on my face, but when I was checking in, we had nice rooms. We were at the Cosmo. The guy at the hotel is like, "Would you like to upgrade your room?" And I was like,
For free.
but no, I was like, yeah, I was like, fuck yeah, I do. Like, what do you have available? And because my room was paid for like whatever it was, $150 a night, I got like a massive suite overlooking the Bellagio fountains. It was massive. So I paid for it. I was like, fuck it. I'm here for 4 nights.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
Do it.
So I had like a 30-foot balcony. It was bonkers. So that whole weekend in Vegas, I mean, we were there with a booth. I don't know. We weren't even selling any services into the States. We just, if it's a trade show, we're going to go get in there.
We're there.
We're there.
Sounds about right. I think
We
there's
just had a
people who still
super
do
wild
that.
weekend. Yeah, definitely still people that do that. I don't know that they buy booths anymore. But yeah, it was
I
a
don't think they're
massive weekend in
Well,
Vegas.
MJ BizCon must be the kind of Hall of Flowers. Hall of Flowers is pretty crazy big, right?
Yeah, and
Since
I think
I'm
MJ
thinking-
Biz takes the
Yeah,
cake because
I'm
it's
thinking
like,
since Lyft, since
oh
Lyft
yeah,
kind
is
of.
Lyft done?
I don't know that they do anything.
I heard
anymore.
nothing from them. Yeah, I don't see
We
them.
They
haven't
went
seen
public,
anything for a
right?
while.
Did they go? Or
I think they did
Or were going to go
briefly.
public?
Like
I'm-
most successful cannabis businesses.
Yeah. Was that sarcasm?
Just a touch. I sprinkle it in from time
What's
to time.
Wes's? Wes, you've been in the industry long enough now too. You even get to choose.
I'll give you 3 quick ones. So I remember getting the phone call back from Sarah Cranamar when I got the job. I think I got it the day after I interviewed with Paul.
How did we get you? Seriously, what
I don't
was it
know.
that
Sarah called
I don't
me.
mean that rudely. I
No,
mean,
no.
this guy fucking managing huge teams at Ecobee.
That's right.
And we're on a skyrocket growth trajectory, and we get Wes in.
No, we told our HR team go out and get us a rock
Get the
star.
best.
for
Yeah, I
customer
got
support.
an email from Sarah or a LinkedIn message from Sarah saying, "Hey, we'd love you to come down. Love your history. Love you to come down and bring." She said, "I need you to
Bring a
bring
joint."
some homework with you. Some homework. I need you to put together a plan of what you would do because we want to go." At the time, Ample wanted to do Australia for the first time with Tasmanian Botanics, and they're like, "We've got 4 people doing phone calls, and we need to do 24-hour support now because we're doing Australia and Ontario. So come with a plan." Give her my whole. I think I did like a 15-page write-up with graphs and charts, and here's how I would do
the
everything.
West way.
So one of my first moments was that the day after getting that call back and knowing just like you that this is it. I'm in the industry now. That was really cool. Number 2 would be I remember being at the Tokyo Smoke launch party the legalization day of legalization.
yeah.
Tokyo Smoke had a big launch party downtown. I remember being down there, and that was super cool. Number 3 is quite recent, which is, ever since we've been doing Legacies, it's one thing to see views go up on YouTube and stuff like that. And I remember with you, we were walking through Grow Up, and it was the first time we had people coming up to us going, "Hey, love the show."
Yeah.
And it's the first time where it's like, fuck, I know I see the numbers on YouTube and I see people watching, but that was the first time for me where
That's
I was
nice.
like, people watch and people actually, enjoy what we're doing.
We still get people that reach out, and you don't think. I mean, you can just look at metrics, right? That's all we have. But unless people actually hit you up and say something, you don't realize it.
Then it's just metrics. It's words are way more impactful than
The other
looking
one.
at
The other one
graphs.
was in when we went to the
You've already had
Elevate.
3. Sorry, you're done.
Wait, we went to the Elevate Retailer Conference, Jazz's conference. And we walked outside for
Kyle
a smoke.
Gordon.
Some guy pops his head up out of the back of his car, goes, "Is that Tom and West? Holy shit!"
That's amazing.
That was funny.
Well, you
That was funny.
guys deserve the notoriety. I mean, you're out here doing this, and you're investing your time to make these conversations happen and get them publicized and get them up there. And I think that's a really important thing that you're doing.
Well,
so
thanks, man.
I really appreciate it. I'm a viewer. I don't always make it through every episode, but
Well, they're chapterized.
some of them are a little
Listen,
long.
they're fucking
This
long.
one is probably
They're
gonna be a
long
big one.
episodes, man. Like
if you're still watching, turn it off. You've been at it too long.
go to bed.
Your eyes are
It's
tired.
10:30. Do you know where your kids are?
That's right. You're already sleeping. This is sleep content now.
I'm gonna give my 3 too. I wasn't going to, but I'm gonna give my 3. Let's see. First day meeting in the legal industry. First day meeting John Prentice.
What a flirt.
You want to hear it? Though?
This is a good
I
story.
show up. So I'm like, fuck, I got to go to Toronto, talking to my buddy. I think we've been jamming in the morning or whatever. I'm like, I got to go to Toronto, meet this guy. He's going to track cannabis. He's like, you already grow cannabis. I said, I didn't say something about growing it. I said tracking, you fucking stoner. So anyways, Dan, that's you, buddy. So we drive up to Toronto. Dan waits in the fucking car. Dude, we were in there
I didn't even know you had a guy in the car.
He
That just changed the whole story for me.
I left him the keys. Like, I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh
you just
my
go,
God.
you need to go get food, go do whatever you want. I'll only be an hour.
Oh, yeah,
5 hours later.
Later.
But so I come out and you didn't know what I look like, I don't think, but I know what John looks like because I'd seen him on BNN. And so this was at commercial, right? 30 commercial. And I go up and I'm like, oh, there's John. And then fucking turns around. He's got a fucking great big backwoods fucking blunt hanging over his. He's like, you want a toke? And I'm like, oh, fuck. Is this a job interview? What are we doing here? What am I doing? I'm like, all right. So we do that. We go in, we do the thing, right? That was number one. I think the other one was, at least regarding Ample, was the build out.
Oh, that
I was
crazy,
so
too.
excited
It
about
was
the
fun.
build out, but I remember we're going through. Do you remember the Ample offices, right? So at first we're only taking
I was
over the
never in the
upstairs.
offices.
What?
Oh, you
What?
missed
You
out.
paid
That
this
was-
guy
I
money.
never
He's
went.
never in our
Oh,
offices.
I know you missed
They never
out.
paid me money.
That was punishment. It was demoing the app.
That was peak. That was peak. Like cannabis.
Oh,
So, like we did not need to go to the lengths we went to.
it was. But then didn't I somehow convince you that we needed the main floor too?
Yeah.
We did need the space, but anyways, so it was going
Then
through.
it changed.
I'm a construction guy, right? And we're going through, and John's like, this is the space we're doing. You'd already shown me the blueprints. I was already with you, I don't know, a few months, and we were building that space out. And we walked through, and he goes, and this is your training center. And I'm like looking at it, it's just fucking steel beams framed up, but I could see it. And I'm like, let's fucking do this. Let's do this. But the worst purchase for the training room to this day is still the jam board.
Yeah, the gym.
Oh, the gym.
Because John didn't realize I'm so old school, right? I'm like, just give me a whiteboard, man.
I
Just
gave
give
him
me
this
a
like
whiteboard.
it was like a 50-inch touch screen on this crazy pedestal with a marker, and
Insane.
it basically worked just like a whiteboard.
You could save things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sync
Oh,
to
we had-
your
we
Google
share
Drive.
We
it.
had
You
one
could
at
share it with
CCI too,
people.
yeah.
Yeah, you could do whatever you want.
Didn't they have a
Yeah.
webcam and stuff built
Yeah, it
in
was
too?
everything
Like, yeah,
you
it was
needed
I
to
think we
do
paid
on
like
it.
$15,000
At
for
least. Yeah.
and then a licensing fee on top of that.
Peter's still fucking shaking his head about it.
Oh my god! Isn't it in a storage locker somewhere?
It would have been. I don't know.
I wonder-
No, it was in the office.
Andrew Wilson, if you have my jam board, give me a
coming
call.
home.
I
It's
miss
coming
it.
home.
Yeah, I was just so old school though. I'm like, dude, I just need a whiteboard and some Sharpies or some dry erase. I didn't need anything else. And then I think the third one was kind of, I had taken time off. Akerna burnt me the fuck out.
You and me
Preach.
both.
Like out. Yeah, but when I seriously though, like you leave, we're still close enough, but like I take over what you had been doing and fucking what these other people didn't do. I won't say their names, but so I'm taking over all that and I'm working 16, 17, 18-hour days and I'm not commuting anymore. So this is like my commute's 2 minutes. And it was the moment I said, fuck this. I'm out. It was so fucking liberating. It's not even funny. My advice to anyone is if you're fucking somewhere you don't want to be,
Get out.
get the
Get
fuck
out,
out.
yeah.
It is not worth it. Not one bit. Wes has jumped without a safety net. John has jumped without a safety net. Andrew's jumped without.
You gotta make that leap sometimes to light that fire. Like you worry about, I might not find anything.
Yeah.
There might not be a job out there, job market stuff. For me personally, and probably Tom as well, but it was jumping, and not even just after Akerna, but after Vengage as well. It was jumping, realizing now I've got a fire under my ass. Now this is.
You have no choice. You work or you don't eat.
That's it.
That's right.
It's one way or another.
Yeah. And you know what? I prefer that life. I honestly do. I like to go out and hunt and kill and eat what I kill.
Yeah,
Like I like that.
Yeah. It's rewarding.
I don't make a good employee.
I don't make a good employee, and I think it's not even a message for anyone that's like considering, I don't like what I do. You can still be employed. You don't have to build something.
I'm
but,
highly effective
but
and I bring
find it.
value to an organization,
right,
but I
yeah.
don't make a good employee.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's been a awesome episode, but before we go, I want to talk about Sheesh for 1 second. I'm not allowed to consume it. Can I?
The sensory is over. You completed your survey. We completed more than 30 minutes ago. The timer has expired. So the sensory test is over. If you're
All right.
personally consuming, that's
out.
you.
I'm going to hand these over. So I haven't had a chance to try these, but what's really exciting is they found a new processor. They're ramping back up. They're coming back into market hard and fast. But they've got gummy SKUs launching in the market. There's Cherry D, so they have back here. You might be able to see it. It's black cherry. My fave so far, but only because I haven't had a chance to try these ones. So they've got Cherry D coming out, which is a cherry cola. I'm getting it right here, Matt, Jackie. I'm reading it so I don't get it wrong because it's super important. Cherry D is coming out that would complement that, and then Bangerine Dream, okay, which would complement this. And both drinks back in market February of 2025 in Alberta, BC, Ontario, and Manitoba. But let me tell you something. So single strain,
unbelievable,
full spectrum, strain specific, but the mouthfeel, right? Like, oh.
He's not the license holder.
He's not.
My God. Oh, so good.
Now you're killing me because I want to drink mine.
Oh my God.
We'll do it when the cameras are off.
I haven't had the tangerine
Just
dream
bleep
yet.
that out.
I mean, it wasn't that obvious.
No.
That was gonna happen.
Well, cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Merry
Cheers,
Christmas,
man.
Happy
Merry Christmas.
Hanukkah, Happy Holidays. However you celebrate it with friends.
Just a
Happy
big thank you to
holidays.
our other sponsors as well. So big thank you to Weedgets and Aveo and Stewart Farms and Stok'd
Mendo,
and
Jay,
Mendo.
we love you.
Yes, thank you to all of our sponsors. this
Stok'd.
year.
You're never going to get this off me this season,
No,
I'll tell you that
no,
much.
we're not. No.
Enjoy your holidays, everyone. Whichever camera you're on, thanks for joining us.
Merry Christmas.